Getting ready to go live. And apparently we are live.
Sweet.
All right.
Are we up?
Well, I think we are up, just waiting for the stream here to catch up. And I think we are live. So welcome back to another episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. I'm David Farkas, joined by Josh Lair. And today, Josh, before I do the intros, just what is this episode about?
Yes, today's episode is all about buying and selling pre-owned Leica gear. So we're going to be navigating those waters, of which there is much to discuss.
There's many waters.
Yes.
All right, so before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out. As I said, I'm David, Josh, we are your Leica experts for the next however long it takes. Producing the show, as always, is Jose Rivera.
Hello, guys.
All right, he'll be monitoring the feed and feeding us questions and manning the cameras. We also tonight have a little substitution in the forum moderation. We've got Gabe Reyes, who's going to keep an eye on your questions and from there if need be. And yeah, so
All right.
I think we are ready to jump in and get started. I see there's a whole bunch of questions coming in. I mean,
Well, let's get one thing out of the way first.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about.
Yep.
What we're not doing tonight is pricing things. So if you want to know XYZ is worth, we may give you some guidance as how to find out.
Right.
But we're not going to be like doing a price or quotes or anything like that. We're going to try to give advice that applies to as many people, as is relevant to as many of you guys as we can. So
okay.
it's certainly okay to ask any question you want, but I'm just saying up front, we're not going to be doing any kind of pricing or price estimating for equipment.
So I would say this is the old adage of, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. I think this is going to be the same thing. Teach you how to value your gear, it's going to be better, right?
The reality is there are so many variables
Yeah.
here, and we're going to cover a ton of stuff because David and I have been dealing with buying and selling new and used Leica equipment for a very, very long time, and we've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of equipment. So we have that luxury of having a really good reference point for what to look for, what not to look for, things that happen, mistakes that are made, common errors, to try to give everybody who's watching the ability to buy and sell with confidence, whether you're buying or selling privately, working with a retailer like a Store Miami or someone else, or whatever you may be doing. So this is all about used, pre-owned Leica equipment. So I think we have some questions spooled up already that Jose's got. We also, I'm sure, are going to have plenty of questions in the comments, so please keep those coming. And if there's something we cannot address in the episode, of course, comment afterwards, email us, call us. That's what we do.
Yep. Just a quick pause. I'm just getting a little feedback here that looks like the feed might be a little bit choppy. Internet might be a little sketchy, so we're just going to do a quick adjustment to our settings. Hang tight for just a sec while we clean this up.
All right. It's technology.
So, technology at the best. What did we say? Using YouTube platform, you get exactly what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, we've had our share of bugs, but we are maintaining a positive attitude that we can.
Yeah, if everything looks okay from your end, could you just drop it in the comments? Or if you're seeing a choppy connection,
let us know.
Yeah, now is a great time because before we dive into all the details, we don't want you to miss anything.
Right. Yeah. David will keep an eye on the.
I'm getting some feedback here that things seem okay now, so maybe it was just a glitch.
As usual, if any video audio problems, please give us a note because we don't know. To us, everything's perfect and nothing's wrong ever. So
because we're actually physically live here.
Yeah, exactly.
Not living on the internet.
We have so much to cover, and I think we should just dive right in. Jose, what do you have to start us with today?
All right. First question is, should I trade in my gear or try and sell it myself?
I mean, that's
a loaded question.
It is. And I think there's a couple variables that really we want to discuss because it comes down to, I guess, convenience, time, hassle, and dollars. I mean, it's kind of a balancing act, right, Josh? You mean what would you say? Like, if someone wanted to maximize and get the absolute top dollar they can get, I mean, the best way to do that's going to be to probably sell it themselves.
Yeah, generally it's always going to be, or you're generally going to net more dollars to yourself if you sell privately. The exception being maybe something extremely valuable or extremely rare, because an individual generally doesn't have the credibility as an authorized reseller or an auction house or somebody who specializes in that kind of equipment.
Right.
So, that's a case where you may find that you have a hard time selling something.
And there you have specialists like the lights auction, the Wetzlar auction.
Oh yeah.
And those only happen
a few times a year. Well, these are twice a year now, I think.
Twice a year, and there's some very valuable pieces on there that, as an individual seller, you may not have the reputation to do that.
For the run-of-the-mill, your standard, I don't know how much standard applies to Leica, but
let's say you're
like
selling a Q.
Right, exactly. Right. You can try to sell it yourself. It just really depends on your comfort level on interacting with other people in terms of who may want to buy your equipment. How are you going to accept payment? How are you going to guarantee that it's working? And all these variables. But definitely, especially, a person-to-person cash transaction, you'll get more than wholesaling it with whether you trade it with us or anyone.
For sure. So if you have a group of friends who are all out and shooting, I know in Seattle, for instance, has the Slug, which is actually these people know each other in real life. They get together, they go out shooting. There's a level of trust there. So if I know Josh and be like, hey man, I have this Q that I'm not using. I know you were interested in this. You want to buy it from me?
Yeah. And a lot of times I'll see people say, well, so-and-so offered me $2,000 on trade. I can probably put it online for $2,500. I'll sell it to you for $2,200. So you split the difference. So you do them a favor. You make it easy for yourself. Everybody's so there's
that's part of the Leica being part of the Leica community. But there's also a little, when you said net the most, I think it's important to also talk about that. And maybe that's going to come up in a different question. But let's say that you sell for yourself on eBay.
Sure. Those fees change all the time. So as of today, from what I know, I'm not an expert. eBay is about 10%, and then PayPal is another 2 or 3%. So 10 to 15% if you include shipping or whatever of whatever you sell it for, taken off the top.
Right.
That's just one way. I don't know much about the other because the problem is when you're talking about a high value item, you want to sell it somewhere where you have protection as a buyer or as a seller.
Sure.
And the dog is thirsty.
Yep. Not us. Not
slurping. Us, little slurping. So anyway, to wrap this question up, it does depend on your comfort level of dealing with a private sale. It depends on your time frame. You may need to get into a new piece of equipment in time for a trip, and it's easier to do a trade. It also depends on the relationship you have with a Leica reseller. Perhaps, you come to an agreement that you're comfortable with. I know we do that all the time. Everybody feels like they're getting a fair deal for all the convenience involved. So, yeah.
So the answer, as always, is
it depends.
It depends.
Which drives people crazy, but
I know everyone hates that.
What do we got next, Jose?
Okay. What's the most common mistake you see with Leica gear that is traded in?
Oh man.
There's
a lot.
I guess we should clarify. Does that mean as a buyer, as a seller?
Well, no, he's talking about gear that's traded in.
Okay, so someone, let's say that we're gonna role play, right? So I'm looking to trade in my Leica Q.
Well,
I want to trade my Leica Q for that 90 Elmer you have.
Right. I can make a lot of generalizations because there's a lot of the same mistakes or errors that I see with trade-ins all the time. Number one is things that are missing that came with the camera new that you probably have and may just not realize that you didn't include it. The single most often missed thing is the USA cable. When it comes to a camera, is the USA cable for the battery charger. It's a 6-foot black
figure 8 style.
Figure 8 mains cord. And people will say, oh, just don't you have one lying around you can toss in? And I go, I ran out of those 5 years ago because everyone kept forgetting that.
Right. It's not that it's an expensive part.
Right. It's just I have to have this.
You can't sell a camera.
Right.
Let's say as a buyer, you wouldn't want to buy a camera that doesn't come with a power cord for the charger. Right.
So this is a big one. And it's not like it says Leica on it. So as long as it looks sort of like this, I'm not going to go, this isn't a Leica brand. No, it's just a generic power cable. That's the first thing all the time.
If you're missing this, you can buy one of these on Amazon for they're $3
or less. They're very cheap. The next most missed item, and this is a little one, I have it in a bag.
Oh, maybe we get a close up on that.
There we go. Again, with cameras, hot shoe covers. The most modern digital M cameras or digital Leica cameras, or really any Leica camera, come with a hot shoe cover. Here we go. These come in the hot shoe to protect the flash sync ports. I think they know where it goes.
I don't know. Maybe they don't.
And, you take these out when you use a viewfinder or a thumbs up, which I suggest is a good idea, but put it in the box. As soon as you take it out of off the camera's hot shoe, put it in the box and leave it there and just never think about it again. So that way you don't lose it. So that's definitely the two most commonly missed things that I see. And there's a million other things that we can talk about, but I think in terms of pieces that are missing without getting camera specific, that's probably one of them. I want to just pause for a second and see what do we have. There's probably 80,000 questions.
Yeah, I'm actually looking through here right now.
A lot of our questions that we got submitted ahead of time are a little more generic, which is fine, but I do want to, obviously we appreciate people who watch and participate. So because this is a very broad ranging topic, unlike last episode, which was just about 50mm lenses, the questions we could get here are almost limitless. So I definitely want to try to get to as many as we can. David, have you found anything that interests you?
I mean, this is a little, some of them are very camera specific in terms of which out of a collection of cameras.
I'm not going to provide camera buying,
right.
That's not, we'll answer the questions like that a different time or one-on-one. In terms of what you should keep it now, which is, valid questions, but let's see, what do we got? Keep going.
For use M lenses,
yes.
Should a CLA be planned?
So we talked about this term the last time. CLA, the letter CLA, is sort of an old school term, a blanket term for an overhaul or a service. It stands for clean, lubricate, and adjust. So an item that's been CLA'd has been brought to a theoretical factory standard. And of course, if it's an old item, there's no factory standard anymore, but just you can buy it with the peace of mind knowing that it's working great. So should you get your M lens CLA? The answer is it depends, of course. If the lens is working fine, the focus is smooth, the aperture ring is good, there's no dust or haze inside, no, there's no reason. You're just sending it out and spending money for nothing. But if there's anything that you would have to try to explain to a potential buyer, well, it's got a sticky spot on the focus, you'll do better.
Yeah, I mean, this is like selling anything that's pre-owned. So imagine you have, I don't know, as simple as you're selling a car and you're like, yeah, it has new tires that were put on last season and the oil has just been changed and I took it in to the dealer for a full checkup. And you provide the paperwork with that. That adds value and a level of comfort to the potential buyer.
Yeah.
It's not that, maybe the car didn't need a new set of tires, or you go to buy a house or sell a house and it's like the roof was serviced 3 years ago and it has a new AC unit. Those are just basically value add things because there's plenty of cars and houses and other things that are just sold as is. And maybe it needs service, maybe it doesn't, but I didn't do it. So generally speaking, those items are going to sell for less than if it has those extra assurances, because I think it also demonstrates to any potential buyers that the seller cares enough to do those things.
Sure, that makes sense. The way I look at it is imagine if you're writing up your listing for your item you're about to sell and you have all the categories. You have what it is, what does it come with, what's the ownership history. Imagine you had a section that was things that were wrong with it, whether it be cosmetic or functional or whatever. Ideally that section would be empty because everything that populates that section is one more thing that a potential buyer is going to have to say, well, there's maybe not this one. So it's all about eliminating the things that could cause someone to have concerns about buying your item or someone to give you a lowball offer on it. Like, oh, well, it's going to need a CLA, which is going to be $1,000. So I want to, it's all about eliminating that.
Those obstacles.
Right, those obstacles from a sale. I like
so
Andrew's question.
Right, so I want to do that.
Yeah.
Jose, you see Andrew C's question there right after the one you just asked? Or do you want me to hit it?
Go ahead, you can ask it.
Okay, so Andrew asks, the prices of used film cameras has crept up over the last few years, which is true, but the M6 in particular seems to have risen more than others. What do you think has caused the M6 to spike more than the M3, the M4, et cetera?
Oh yeah, that's an easy
And
one.
it's true, we have. I mean, it's insane how much M6s have risen in value.
The M6 is the first modern analog M camera in my mind. It has a light meter, it has a familiar profile, it has frame lines for 28 to 135 millimeter. It's as close to an M10 as you can get without going into an MP. See, the MP, which is really the penultimate analog M camera, is very, very hard to get new, very, very hard to get pre-owned. So it really exists on a different plane. So as the MP has become harder to get and more expensive, that has dragged up the desirability of M6s with it. Because I think the reality is M6s were grossly underpriced for what they were for a long time. They're small and they're light and they're very easy to use. You can still get them serviced. They're really pleasurable, actually, and they have a .72 viewfinder. You can get a .58 or a .85.
And I would add, I think some people, because I think an M7 technically is closer to an M10, but there's a value to, I think a lot of people might gravitate to an M6 over an M7 because the M7 has an electronically controlled shutter, which is an advantage that you can shoot an aperture priority. The disadvantage is if you run out of batteries, you're stuck at a 60th or a 125th.
Right. And we covered this a lot in our analog M video, but I guess to get...
But so I would add, it's a modern style M still with a fully mechanical shutter system.
Yes, and they're sweet. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I do think that M6s were just very, very underpriced, and that I don't see it as a unreasonable prices now. I see it as a correction to what they should have been selling at 5 years ago, especially now as film has resurged quite a bit in popularity. So
agree.
Next question. What else we got in the comments?
Whoops. Let's see. Whoa. Okay.
Oh well.
I mean, here's another kind of a related question. Now, this is a little specific, but I think it does bring up a valid point of discussion, which is A Green says, my M6 needed $600 worth of work with the meter and other things. Now, that's a statement, but I would kind of post the next obvious question, which is, at what point is it worth to fix a used item that you plan on selling or trading versus saying, you know what, it's not worth spending that money to get nothing out of it?
Well, I would say up to about 20% of the item's retail value, I'm comfortable spending. It just depends on how valuable the item is, how damaged it is. I mean, no matter what, you should send it in to Leica or DAG or YYE to get a repair estimate and then decide from there. But a $600 M6 service is really not bad. It depends on what exactly was done. But I spend that kind of money on M6 CLAs all the time, and I have no issue with that. If anything, that investment will give the next owner of that camera, whether you trade it or sell it, a lot more peace of mind. And even if it doesn't increase the value of the camera by $600, let's say, that's how much you spend, it's going to mean the person who buys it keeps it.
Doesn't return it to you.
They send it back, and you got to sell it again, then you got to ship it, and every time it's shipped, it's at risk of being damaged and all this stuff. So
that's another important thing. If you are going to sell on your own, now if you sell to your buddy down the street or in your camera club, then you'll be like, hey Josh, this camera you sold me, it's not working right.
Right,
that's one thing, and you're like, it was working when I sold it to you, and then you never talk for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think more the issue is, because I think two friends can work it out, but the issue is if you go on eBay, in order to sell on eBay, as a seller, you have to provide returns. Like, it's a requirement now, isn't it?
Well, think now.
Or is that only commercial sellers?
It's if it's defective, they can return it, even if you don't have a return policy.
So no matter what.
The point is that...
And they can say it's defective even if it's not.
The objective is to give whoever is ending up with your equipment, whether it's a reseller or a private individual, the peace of mind to not want to send it back or not have an issue. So, but we're getting a lot of questions, so let's go.
Okay. Here's another basic one that happened. I hear this all the time.
Okay.
Do boxes and papers really make a difference in the price that you are offered?
Yes. The objective with any piece of Leica equipment that you're selling or trading is for it to be as complete as it was when it was brand new. That will give you the highest resale price or trade-in value. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, certain pieces will command a significantly higher price with box and packaging. Certain pieces, it will be a nominal difference. Here's an example. I have here, it looks like a plastic bag. This is a pre-owned M10. You'll notice that all it has is the little inner box. Now I've bagged it and it looks very nice. It's missing a lot of stuff. But the M10 is almost like a commodity camera at this point. It's just something that you use. This has been serviced. So this may sell for $100 less, maybe $50 less than a camera that had a box. Almost a negligible difference. Cosmetics and other things matter more. As opposed to something like this, which I'll unbox in a minute, this is a 35 Summicron spheric black paint special edition.
Ooh.
The box and packaging for this lens probably add $300 or more to its resale price. And not only that, it will sell that much faster because it has the box and papers. So when you buy any piece of Leica equipment, you should make an effort, if at all possible, to keep the boxes, packaging, paperwork, all the bits and pieces that it came with when you bought it new.
I mean, even the little plastic bag that the item is in,
Yeah.
just shove it back in the box.
Yeah, I mean, if I, like I said, I was gonna open it. So if I open this,
Oh, okay, here we go.
You can see it's got the original paperwork, even like original warranty cards, the foam, the lens case, and even, this is cool, can we get a close-up, Jose?
Well, the plastic.
Even the plastic bag the lens came in from the factory.
With the label, yeah.
With the original serial number sticker on the bag. So this would be complete as new. Thank you, Michelle, for this, if you're watching. So, and there's the hood, of course. On a collectible piece, a vintage piece, a rare piece, it's always going to be worth a higher percentage more with boxes and paperwork than a current piece. That's just the
Yeah, I
general
mean,
rule.
imagine buying a special edition camera set that doesn't have the box and that came in a plastic bag like that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, certainly you're going to miss out on a large percentage of the collector market.
Absolutely, yeah.
Someone who's looking for a perfect example and they're like, I don't want that one. I'm going to skip over it.
So keep your boxes and packaging. If you don't have a space for it and you have to throw it away, at least try to sell it. So I've seen people sell empty Leica boxes, but just try to keep it. I mean, it really will make a difference, especially with a collectible piece. Next.
All right.
Jose, you got something for us?
Yeah, I'll look through here.
David will
Jose.
poke around. Jose, what do you got for me?
All right. Buying a used or refurbished film camera is one thing, but digital cameras become obsolete fast. By comparison, how does this affect the pricing of used digital cameras?
Well, used digital cameras is one thing. Used Leica digital cameras is another thing. I mean, I hate to bring up the M9, but look at the M9s. I mean, they have actually. I'm selling M9s. M9s are selling in general.
M9Ps especially. Wow.
M9s are selling in general for the same price as a 240 because they have a very unique user experience and the out-of-camera image quality is highly desired. So I don't think Leica digital cameras depreciate the same way that other manufacturers, mainstream manufacturers, digital cameras do. But I wouldn't buy a Leica or any digital camera or any camera regular expecting it to go up in value. I would buy it to use it. Obviously not factoring in collectible pieces or whatever, but I mean, the M240 when it was new was $7,000 and now they're $2,500. So, but that was also 8 years ago, 2012. So,
Yeah.
the fact that it's still worth a third of its original retail price 8 years later tells you that there's an intrinsic value there that's always going to be there no matter how old it gets. At a certain point, yes, Leica will not be able to fix them. I'm sure this will come up if it hasn't already that there's no longer any CCD sensors left for M9, so you can't. That's an example of a situation, but that is the nature of technology. There's no company that makes a complex technological instrument generally, no small company will support it with parts forever. Even with cars, I think companies have a 10-year requirement or something like that. So yeah, I don't see any issues in the next 10 or 15 years, other than like strange ones like this corrosion issue, which wasn't even Leica's actual fault. It was the sensor manufacturer. But
And only showed up about 5 years
yeah,
later.
so, but yeah, it's still terrible. I mean, it's unfortunate. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I don't know if that answered the question, but what do you got, David?
What is the main, Vincente asks, what is the main risk when you buy secondhand cameras? Example, sensor damage.
No, the main risk is that if it's stolen, that's the main risk. Because if you buy something that's stolen, that's registered with Leica as stolen or somewhere, it doesn't matter how nice it is or how beat up it is. If you ever send it in for service or try to trade it or anything, you're going to lose it. So that's, to me, the number one risk. I'm not going to speak.
I don't think that's what people were asking. But
no,
but
that's a serious concern if you're buying privately.
Yeah.
So reach out to the local Leica agency, whatever country you're based out of, and say, hey, I'm going to buy this item. And
ask for the serial number.
I cannot speak for any other reseller in this case, but I know here, David and I and our colleagues, we check everything. If I don't have proof of purchase and I can't establish provenance, I will confirm that it is legitimate. It's unusual, but that's the number one risk. Straight up, forget about something being broken. I know that's not the answer you wanted, which I'll get to.
Let's get to, I mean, I can say,
Yeah.
yes, if you have, let's say, M8, M9, CCD generation cameras, M8.2, all those cameras are going to be subject to possibly to sensor corrosion, CCD sensor corrosion.
Did you say M8.2? Did I hear that? No.
Oh, not the M8.2.
No, M starts with the M9.
No,
don't
right.
spread rumors
sorry. Let's clarify.
Yeah.
M9, M9P, M Monochrom,
ME.
and the ME. Yeah. So those cameras, at least in the M line, were subject to CCD sensor corrosion. Most of them should have been replaced with good sensors, because Leica did work with TrueSense to resolve the issue, and there was a new coating applied to those new generation of sensors, and it was issued as a permanent fix and a recall. They did it for how many years was it offered for free?
A number of 4 or 5 at least.
4 or 5, and then it maintained that for a number of years afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, they should have been sent in. They should have been repaired. The vast majority should be. But if you are looking at buying an M9, an M9P, an ME, make sure that in that description it says sensor has been replaced, and there's documentation of that.
Right. You want to have the paperwork, the service paperwork from, if it was in Leica USA, Leica USA customer care, whoever did the work, that it shows the sensor was replaced. That's like, to me, a no-brainer. Unless it's so cheap that it doesn't matter. You know, maybe it doesn't have a lot of corrosion and it's $500. Like, okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, actually, let's say it does have corrosion. Maybe you have an opportunity to buy a really cheap M9.
That's true, that you could trade it up under the Leica trade-up program and get an SL2 or Q2 or anything else. So that's...
And actually you'd come out way ahead on that.
Yeah, the Leica offers a CCD trade-up program through, you do it through us or whoever. You don't have to do it direct. And basically, if you have a M9 that's exhibiting corrosion, you can trade it in without having to have the sensor fixed and get a pretty good price for it towards a new SL2, Q2. They just updated the program last week. We're going to post about it.
Yeah, we'll post a chart about that.
I should have done it before, but I just
I thought about that too.
Got a little busy. But yeah, that's another option. So,
but that's the number one thing to look for in that generation of camera.
Yeah, if you're buying an M9. But the other reality is that having the box and paperwork isn't just about having the physical things. Just like having something serviced, it shows you that the previous owner of that equipment cared enough about it to keep all of the extra stuff.
Right.
If I get a new thing and I toss everything but the camera body immediately, it probably is just a commodity, a tool to me, which is not a bad thing. But when it goes time to resell and you look and you see, wow, there's one with everything and one with the body and a body cap. Well, the one with everything, you're going to just have more peace of mind because you know that person cared. Yeah. In theory. Again, I'm making generalizations, but they're from experience. So hopefully that makes sense. What's next? What's next?
Jose's turn.
Okay, go.
How much value does 6-bit coding add to an M lens?
A lot more than it used to.
Yeah.
In the early days, it was like $225 to have a 6-bit coding done.
And how much is it now,
Now
Jeff?
it's about $550 to $600. Depending on the lens, there's a couple of complicated ones that are more expensive, like a medium angle Triomar, but so that you'll get about that much more generally.
A little less than that.
You're not just paying the premium of the cost of the service, but also the time that it takes to send the lens in, get it 6-bit coded, and get it back. So I try to, every lens that we get, I generally try to have 6-bit coded. Some exceptions, it just depends on the optic, but it's not as big a deal as it used to be because now the M10, if you set a lens manually in the M10 in the lens profile menu, switch to a 6-bit coded lens and then switch back to the non-6-bit lens, it actually remembers the last non-6-bit lens you dialed in. So if you only have one,
the M9 did not do that.
Yeah, so it's actually not as big a deal as it used to be. Next.
That's a good question. And yes, Ted rightly points out that CCD replacement has ended. Just an FYI, that just happened. But again, most of them should have been replaced by now.
That's right.
If they're not, Leica still does have their trade-up program, which is actually very generous.
Yeah, we'll post a retroactive link in the description once it's live on Red Dot Forum. What else we got in here?
Well, this is an interesting one. Jay asks, if I buy a used camera body and it still has Leica warranty, do I need to register the camera?
There is not a simple answer to that question.
But it's a good question.
What I can say is this. In the United States, I'm only going to speak for products sold, authorized Leica resellers in the United States. That's all I'm speaking about. If you have a copy of the original purchase invoice showing the item was purchased new at an authorized Leica reseller, as the holder of that invoice, regardless of whose name is on it, you can have that item serviced under warranty as long as it's still in the warranty period. That's really... Now, of course, it gets more complicated than that, and I'm not going to get into too much on this episode because there's a lot of gray area. I think our goal and Leica's goal is to try to be as accommodating as possible, as opposed to setting crazy strict, like, this is how it is. But it's more about the fact if the item is produced within its warranty period, most new Leica products have a manufacturing date on them, Leica is going to honor it. You can register it with Leica, but you won't be able to register it with the original purchase date unless you know that date. Now, you could send it in and hope for the best, and Leica may just service it under warranty and not ask you for a copy of the invoice, or they might. So it's a gray area, but for the better, not for the worse.
So what about the registration question, though? Should they go on and re-register?
Yeah, you should. You should register it online. If it's registered by the previous owner and you bought it privately, ask them to delete their name from the registration. If you bought it from a dealer, the dealer can contact Leica customer care, and they can reset it because they'll tell them like, oh no, this person is the new owner. So yeah, you should definitely register any new or used piece of equipment you have purchased from Leica equipment in the Leica. They call it the Leica Club now, or it's whatever the online owners.
What, the owners area?
Yeah.
There was another one that I thought was really good, but I'm finding it.
Is there a way to figure out the number of actuations?
That's the one I was looking at. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great question. I'd like to answer mostly no. And I think the second part of that question, could you ask the second part that I saw?
No. Oh, shouldn't that impact value?
Right. So the answer to the first question is generally no, you can't tell actuations on a Leica camera. What
does actuations mean?
Actuations is the number of times the shutter has been fired.
Thank you.
Okay. So number of shutter clicks, number of shutter count, people use all different kind of things, but actuations is sort of the term, the most used term. But just to be clear, the vast majority of digital Leicas cannot have shutter actuation counts read out of them. With a notable exception that Josh is going to show you a neat little trick for the cameras that can be. But I will say SL, SL2, no. Q2, no. M10, M10R, M10 Monochrome, no.
M240, no, none of them.
Where's the M240?
I didn't actually.
You don't have one. But the M240 over here, M-Type 240, MP240, M246 Monochrome. Well, I'm just outlining. No. So, the ones, yes. Which ones can be?
So the only two Leica digital cameras that will give you the shutter count is the M8 and the M9, and then the cameras they're based on, like M9P, M9 Monochrom, M8.2. But at their core, the M8 and the M9, you can determine the shutter count. All other digital Leicas, you cannot. Now, does that impact value? Well, on the M8 and the M9, certainly, because you're giving that information, and it will give you an idea of the amount of use that the camera has had. But the reality is that a modern Leica digital camera, M10 SL, the shutter is rated so highly, I don't know the official ratings, but they're over 100,000.
It's very high.
That if a camera was used enough and fired enough to the point where it was near shutter failure, the cosmetic condition of the camera would be very, very obvious. Unless somebody had it on a tripod and was using it for scientific purposes, which you probably should avoid those people anyway for buying their gear, where it's just like in an industrial setting being fired and fired and fired and fired, and they probably wouldn't use a Leica for that. It doesn't really matter. Think about this. M240 introduced live view. Well, what is live view? It's the shutter opens and exposes the sensor, also known as an actuation. So even if you could get a shutter count on a 240 or an
it's
M10,
not accurate.
It's not going to be accurate because every time you've activated live view, that's also an actuation.
Yep.
In the sense of the mechanical action.
Yeah, the half is opening the shutter. Yeah. Because when you actually take the lens off a camera, you will see that there's a shutter there. There's a mechanical shutter.
Yeah.
The SL, same thing.
Yeah. So
if I go into live view, just to show.
I don't know if there's a battery in that camera.
There is.
Is there? Okay. No, I won't go with the lens on.
There's no lens mounted. But when you mount the lens and you go into live view, the shutter opens.
You can just assign a lens profile in the 6-bit coding menu.
Yeah.
So the point is this. Any modern Leica, you cannot get the shutter count. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because that would be too overarching. But what I'm going to say is it's not
as relevant as it used to be. Yeah.
In value, because cosmetic condition will tell you a lot about how the camera was used. Because I have seen, straight up, beautiful M9s with 25,000 shots. And I've seen M9s, I just saw one recently, very, very, very well used, brassing and dense, with like 1,675 shots on it.
Wow.
I mean, I could take a brand new M9 and drop it down a flight of stairs. Well, it's got 100 shots on it, but it's broken. So it's about how it was treated, not how many times the shutter was clicked. That said, there is a way on the M8 and on the M9 to see the shutter count. I will show you.
Yeah, we got to show this.
I have an M8 here. It's a sequence of keystrokes that gets you into the camera service menu. And I'm sure if anyone who worked at Leica customer care watched this video, they would be appalled. This information is available online. Use it at your own risk. If you mess it up, in terms of like you go to the wrong setting, I'm not taking responsibility for that. But if you do it the right way, you're going to be 100% fine. I do it 5 days a week. So I have an M8, silver M8. Here we go. I'm going to turn it on. There's a battery in it, obviously. I'll show you. Battery, there's no SD card in here. Okay.
I feel like this is a magic trick.
I'm going to turn it on.
He has nothing up his sleeves.
I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to wait for the no SD card message to come up and go away. I'm not going to touch any buttons. I'm not going to do anything. Okay. Then I'm going to go, just kind of do this kind of like this. Right 3 times. Right 4 times.
Here, why don't I read it? And
David, you can, well, I need to like see it.
Yeah, here we go. I'm going to give you the instructions, okay? So this is an M8. So you're going to go right 4 times. You're going to go left 3 times. You're going to go right 1 more time. And then you're going to push the info button.
Ta-da! So that's 4 rights, 3 lefts, 1 right, info. And you can see now we have the camera's service menu. We're going to go into body debug data. It's the 3rd one down. Can you see that? I can't tell. Sorry. It's like backwards. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to body debug data. I'm going to hit set. And I'm going to scroll down in this menu, to num exposures, which is right here. There we go. And that tells me this camera has 10,398 shots on it. So that's how you get the shutter count on an M8. And this information is available online if you just search Leica M8 shutter count or Leica M8 service menu. The key is not to press the buttons too fast or too softly. You saw, I'll do it one more time just so you can see. You have to be kind of decisive. So you wait for the no card to go away. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, info. Yeah, you see I messed it up.
Nope, you did it wrong.
Yeah, see, well that's actually fitting because it's, people will tell me it doesn't work, Like, no, you just have to be
Here,
exactly
I'll do
right.
it again. Okay.
Let me just look at it. Here we go.
4 on the right, 3 on the left, 1 on the right, info.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, info.
There you go.
There it is. There we go. And
Second time's the charm.
Yes, right. To get out of this, just turn it off. Easy. So that's how you get the shutter count on an M8. Now on an M9, I have to get an M9. Bear with me here. This is also a great example of what makes these cameras really special. This is an M9 Monochrom, not just any M9 Monochrom, a silver one.
Ooh.
And it's all boxed and pretty. This is the rarest production version of the original Monochrom. They did not make nearly as many in silver as they did in black, silver chrome or black chrome. So
it came out later in the
yes, this
production.
one happens to be complete as new. It's got the box and everything. It even has the first thing you're going to see when I open it, service paperwork. Provenance, it's key, right? Okay. And we're going to take out the little folder. It's got all the paperwork, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here we go.
You guys didn't think you were going to get unboxing videos,
That's
did
right.
you?
This is like a secret unboxing video, but I do have a point to this, I promise. Okay. Boom. I'm going to steal the battery from the M8, if you don't mind. And I will show you how to do the same thing on, again, this works with an M9, M9P, Monochrom, because it's based on the M9. All of the M9 variants this will work on. So I don't have a card in here. I'm going to put the battery in here. This is very specific, but I promise. Okay, turn it on. I'm going to put this here. I can read it.
You got it.
Jose, we got the close-up. Here we go. Okay, so it is, here we go, I'm doing this backwards. Delete, up twice, down 4 times, left 3 times, right 3 times, info. Delete, up twice, down 4 times, left 3 times, right 3 times, info. Boom. Same menu as the M8. We scroll to body debug data, which is the second item down. We scroll down to num exposures. You can see here, this camera has 1,929 shots on it. Boom. Look at that. So if you have an M8 or you have an M9 or one of the variations of it, that is the way to get the shutter count. And those are the only cameras you can do it on. Why doesn't David take a question while I pack this mess up?
Yeah, go for it. Let's see. What do you got for me, Jose?
Does a P add a value versus the base unit?
Yes.
That was easy.
I mean, yes, it does. By how much depends on which variant, and then obviously what's included, condition, and all that. But in general, let's say going from, an M240 to an MP240, you're getting an upgraded camera, and there's also less of the P models made than the standard models because the P usually comes at a later production date, similar to this, silver M Monochrom, because they're, I don't want to say rare, they're not rare, they're just slightly scarcer, which means if you're looking for one, you might end up having to pay more for it. Also, when it came out new, the P version is generally noticeably more expensive than the non-P version. Some of them have functional differences, for instance, like a sapphire glass screen on some of the P models versus a polycarbonate screen. This is very interesting. There's like one thing going on over here.
Don't pay attention.
Don't pay attention to this guy. So yeah, there's actually differences with the M10 and the M10P. Now we're seeing a lot of the P changes come into the main lineup with the M10 Monochrom and the M10R. So there still is a difference though between a M10 non-P and an M10P. An M10P is basically the same camera as we covered in our previous episode as an M10R, just with less pixels, but exactly the same feature set and physical camera. So the answer is yes. Again, it depends if we're talking about an M10 generation, an M240 generation, or an M9 generation. But how much would, we only have 3 generations of cameras there.
Yeah.
What would you say in terms of a P version, average price delta between, let's say, an M9 and an M9P? In terms of percentage, is probably about 30% M9 to M9P, 20% M240 to MP240, and it's difficult to say with M10s just because every M10P is still under warranty for the most part in the US because they come with 2 years. So that skews it up even more so. It's like 20, 30, 35 to 40% for M10P. Wow.
So the M9P is still probably the biggest delta. And also that does depend on shutter count because in that case you can check it. I don't see M9Ps. They just don't come in on trade. It's extremely
pretty desirable.
Rare. Yeah. Extremely rare to see, especially boxed and nice like that in Monochrom.
Yep.
Dave, what do we got in the old comments?
There's a good question here. I think Josh will like this one.
Okay.
Can you get Leica to repaint a used M in black paint if it was another color, for example, black chrome?
No. Black chrome is an anodized finish. The base material is different. Black paint is a painted finish
over brass.
So no. I wish. That would be awesome. Candy spray paint from your local hardware store and good to go. Don't do that, please.
Don't do that.
Please don't do it.
Although there is...
Why is there an although after that statement?
No, not that.
Okay.
Not the hardware store. I totally agree.
Okay.
Good safety tip. Do not get like Krylon spray paint and do it yourself.
Yeah.
I would say though, there is services out there that do repaintings.
Yeah, Kanto camera in Japan. I don't know if they're still around or how backed up they are, but they do film cameras mostly.
Yeah,
as far as I know, I can't speak for them. They're totally separate.
Because we've seen some pretty cool
paint
jobs.
I've seen some wild stuff. But no, you're not going to have a black chrome M10 repainted into a black paint M10 because if you could, I would have done it already and I'd have one sitting on the table. So
yes.
Sorry. Next.
Sishan said, it hurts my feelings that an S is not sitting on that table.
We have an S2.
We only have so much room to show stuff. So I didn't really know what exactly to bring. because this is such a wide-ranging topic.
Well, and also Josh knew that he'd be doing various, box demonstrations.
Yes, and the S box is huge.
Yeah.
So, sorry. If you watched our S video or David's S3 video, we love the S. We shoot a ton with it. We have workshops where there's 5 people shooting S in a row. So we love it. It just didn't make a ton of sense.
Don't feel bad.
To have it in front of us right now. But if you have questions about it, please ask that are relevant to trading. So, or whatever. David.
Right.
Jose.
Jose's got a list of questions.
It's from
here.
the chat, so it's from Dennis. 6-bit coding done by Leica or independent repairmen such as DAG. Any difference?
Yes. I'm not going to speak. All I'm going to say is this. The only official 6-bit coding is what Leica customer care does, whether it's in the US, Germany, or one of their other repair agencies. Anything else is probably fine, but the only official 6-bit coding where I would call something 6-bit coded in a product listing or in a description to a customer or anyone is if it's done by Leica. Next question.
Yes.
All right. If I'm watching my budget, should I get a new camera with a used lens or a used camera with a new lens?
Well, you should buy a used camera and a used lens. But if you want to buy one new item, it does depend on your budget in the sense like, if we're talking about M, okay, and you want a 50 Noctilux, I'd probably buy a used one because as a very high price lens, it has a higher depreciation curve generally.
You'll save more on an expensive lens. But
if there's like when the M10R was announced, we saw M10Ps and M10s hit the market. So then it was a better time to buy a used M10 than it was 6 months before. So it's very market dependent because you want to get a good deal. Obviously, you don't want to buy at the peak of the market if you can help it.
Well, and I think what Josh is saying has a very valid point in terms of market timing, because when a new camera comes out, generally the previous generation, there's not a flood, but an influx of more of those cameras on the market.
Yes.
Let's say when the SL2 was introduced, the SL601s, there was a bunch of SL601s coming on the market, but what dried up very quickly and the price went up, was used SL lenses.
Right.
So you have all these new SL2s going out on the market. People are gobbling up lenses, driving up the prices to where a used SL lens doesn't sell for much less than a new SL lens.
Yeah.
But a previous generation SL601 sells for a lot less temporarily before the market stabilizes. So it really depends what you're buying, when you're buying it.
Yeah.
And
that's where your relationship with an authorized Leica reseller like us or whoever you like to work with, there's a lot of great ones, comes in handy. Because while nobody is going to tell you or even tells us what's coming next, we still have a sense of what's coming in on trade-in, what people are asking about, where prices seem to be going or based on where they came from.
Well, I think we also have a historical outlook, where we can look back and say, okay, well, over the last 15 years, these are the trends, and this is when certain things happened.
Yeah.
And we can also have a much larger sampling size and say, okay, well, we've seen 100 used M cameras in X amount of time versus I know a guy who had an M and he talked to some other guy who had one.
I like Terrence's question up there.
Oh, sure. Let me read that. So I have an M9 Monochrom in silver, just like the one Josh showed. And I updated the sensor.
Good job.
Good job, yeah. Should I hold on to it or sell it while it still has value? I know in 10 years' time, it's going to be a 20-year-old camera, and will it be serviceable?
So, the question is more complicated than that. So should you sell it now? Probably not, because sensors were just announced as being unavailable. So it means it's only going to get harder if there's any residual supply around the world. I would probably wait unless you needed to cash out of it sooner. Everyone's got a different situation, but if you look at the M8s, the M8s, they were kind of going like this. Going a little bit up, and then they announced that they didn't have screens anymore, and they kind of flatlined, and they went down, and then they went up again after people just kind of got over that fact. But only the ones that were serviced are the ones that really went up. So I think you should hold it. I don't know where the values are going to go. You certainly don't want to hold it forever, but I think at least for the next 6 months through next year.
Listen, I think it's interesting. We were just talking about this before the live stream because we're geeky, nerdy people, but Josh just got a hold of something pretty cool and near and dear to my heart from a, let's say, a nostalgic point of view, right? So what did you just get? What did you just get?
Well, it's sitting on my desk. It's not in the system. We don't own it yet. I'm still working with the gentleman. But the DMR. So Leica Digital Modular, which was their first real pro level entry into the digital world in 2003, which was a digital back with an Imicon sensor.
2004.
I think it was announced in 2003.
Yeah, well,
Don't start with me. and it actually goes on to an R8 or an R9. So that is, the one I have in is complete box packaging everything, which is why I wanted it. I probably wouldn't have bought it.
But there's a but here.
What?
There's a but. It was one of those products that basically a lot of people had no interest in for a long time.
Right, yes.
Because it takes this really interesting, I
should have brought it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, the box is huge.
It takes this really long kind of slot load battery that slides in on the side and it makes a very satisfying click.
Yeah.
And there was an announcement, many years ago now, that the batteries were no longer available and there was no way to get new batteries. So that camera didn't have notoriously great battery life, about 200 shots per charge, and it's a big battery. Basically, market values went tanked because nobody wanted a camera they couldn't shoot with because it's digital technology. No battery that fits it means you can't use it. But what happened is, in the last few years, there's actually now methods to get new battery cells put into the old battery shells. And it's breathed new life into systems like these where it actually has value, a lot more value than it had just 2 or 3 years ago.
There you go. So that's a really specific case because there's not a lot of TMRs out there.
1,500.
There's one on my desk.
Yeah.
But but I would say, to answer the original question, there's a question here that Jose is probably laughing his face off. Guy wants to know if I
Well, that's not a real name, by the way.
yes, I know who Guy Fawkes is. First of all, someone's name could actually be Guy Fawkes. You don't know that.
That's the best question of the night.
Can you pay in Bitcoin if you buy from Leicas or No, although
If you send it to me, yes.
Jose, as a cryptocurrency enthusiast, could probably have his words to say about that. I love that question because there's probably going to be a day when the answer to that question will be yes. But we're a very small company and don't have
I'll answer that one.
infrastructure yet.
All right, you asked me that one.
Steven, hey Steve, how are you? If I want to buy a monochrome camera but don't need 40 plus megapixels, is it wise to settle for the 246 monochrome, previous gen, or to spend the extra precious money on the overkill M10 monochrome?
I think you answered your own question because the M246 monochrome is an insanely good camera that holds up equally well today. And if you don't need the added resolution, absolutely get it. It's a killer camera. It takes amazing images. You can even see my latest monochrome showdown. I have the M10 monochrome pitted up against the M246, and you can see how well the M246 holds up. It definitely holds its own. So Josh and I are going to say this a lot. We usually do. Kind of referencing that previous question-ish, I would take the money that you save buying a used 246 monochrome and throw that money into investing into lenses.
Yeah.
You're going to get far better return than you will with the increase in resolution. And if you find at a later date that, you know what, I really could use 40 megapixels, then at that time you can move more easily into the M10 monochrome. You're still going to have a lot of value in that 246 because most of the depreciation has been taken and the market is pretty stable, at least currently. And we think at least for the immediate future as well. So it gives you some options, and you can either save money and put it in your pocket, or you can invest it in glass and have a more complete M system. That gives you more options.
What is Mark saying over there? We have a problem? Is there something wrong with our feed? No?
Oh, he says he refreshed on his end.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, though, because we definitely appreciate being informed if there's an issue. But I want to answer Nick's question, David, if you can ask that, please.
Okay, Nick says, when would you predict will be the ideal time to upgrade from an M240 to a used M10, as far as the crossing point of the M10 being its cheapest without the M240 having lost much value?
The answer to that question is you do it when you're ready. Because what's the reality here? If M10s get $300 cheaper and the M240 stays the same, but it takes 6 months, you haven't shot with an M10 for 6 months. And how much does it cost to rent an M10 for a week is more than that. So if you feel that your budget and photographic needs are ready for an upgrade, you should upgrade. because the value price differences in the short term, when I mean short term, I mean less than a year, are negligible unless a new model comes out, which already happened. We had the M10R and the M10 Monochrom this year already. So I think there's a greater price delta within the used M10 market already, from a rough camera with no box to a mint camera that's got warranty and it's fully boxed. There could be a $600 price difference there, which is more than any of those cameras are going to depreciate in the next 6 months. So if you are trying to work within a budget, just accept a lesser condition camera, especially if one has been serviced, because then you know it's going to work perfectly, versus, let's say, holding out for a nice one that maybe drops by $200 or something nominal like that. So I think it isn't a matter of when is the right time based on what the market's doing as a whole, and more about when you're ready. Now, of course, if you buy a brand new M10 and the new model comes out the next day, that's unfortunate. I get it, but that happens in technology. So there's no way around that. But certainly, if you're buying the previous gen model after the new one has already been announced, it's pretty safe there's not going to be another new one like a week from now or something like that. So yeah, buy when the time is right for you. Don't buy based on speculation, because it takes the fun out of it. And in the end, we're not talking about thousands of dollars, but we are talking about time spent without that item.
Yeah, I mean,
which makes me sad.
I think the reality is we're buying these things. I think most people are buying these things to actually go and use them and enjoy them. It's not, we're not buying and trading stocks here. There is a market, like the stock market, like the real estate market, but I don't think that there's people actively, day trading Leicas, trying to make, quick cash on Leicas. I think that we have to look at things with a little wider view and always step back and say, okay, maybe the price might drop $100, or maybe I can wait for that camera that's $100 less expensive. But, what is the price to me, what does it cost to me to say, but then I don't get to shoot with that camera for the next 3 months because I'm waiting for the perfect one.
Right.
Right. Really, and that's why it's a very personal decision. Maybe, you're really watching every single dollar, and the money is more important than the time. And I think a lot of people, though, would say that the time is worth more than the money.
And we respect whatever your goals are. I mean, and our job is to work around that. I'm not gonna try to convince someone to spend more than they can, because you shouldn't do that. You should do what's right for you. Mm. But there are so many options in the pre-owned world for M10s or whatever that you are spoiled for choice, especially right now with the M10R having come out a few weeks ago, and people trading in M10s and M10Ps to get M10Rs, and also SL2s and other things. Yeah. What else we got in the chat? Anything good?
Yeah.
Can you? Oh wait, yes. No, I'm not gonna answer that. That's a funny question, though.
It is. It is. I think there was some.
What about those one here before?
What's
Did
that?
the discontinuation of Summarit M lenses affect its price secondhand?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, yes and no, because dribs and drabs of new examples have showed up randomly. Once they're totally 100% sold out new globally, Summarit values will increase by a little bit. I've already seen that starting to happen, but we're not talking about
huge amounts.
They're I'm going to say relatively inexpensive lenses, relatively compared to like a Noctilux. So even if they appreciate by 20%,
it's not a lot.
It's $200 or $300. So again, I'm not just missing that, but and if you own a Summarit, especially if you bought them early on at the old original launch prices at 2.4, you're in a position to do well whenever you sell or trade it, for sure.
But you probably shouldn't, because they're great lenses.
You shouldn't. If you do, please let me have it, because I am obsessed with 2.4 Summarit lenses.
We are gonna start a petition, I think, to bring those lenses back.
Jose, what else you got for us? David, poke around, see what you can find.
Oh, well, that's interesting. This is an interesting question, and it's something that we discuss, actually. And I don't think there's an easy answer for it, but I'm gonna ask the question.
Okay.
So, Ian, hi Ian.
Hi Ian.
Long time no see. I'm a collector of special edition M's. My favorites are the M9 Titanium and the M10 Zagato. By the way, that Zagato is pretty sexy.
Super nice.
Okay. But they are disposable technology and may become worthless. Do you think I should focus on film cameras?
Well, nobody should be buying any camera equipment as an investment, nor do we provide investment advice. I'm sorry, I don't want to like dismiss that statement, but
check with but I think Ian actually is a financial advisor.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that an object that is designed to be collectible or special has value outside of its functional use. So I don't think there's going to be serious concerns about these digital collectibles in the long term because they're digital. Now, trends may change, aesthetic desires may change, so certain things that may be really desirable one year may be less desirable the next year. In the long term, I don't think that's an issue. So if you are going to collect Leicas, you should collect what you like. If it goes up in value, that's a bonus. Because in general, if I look at the past 10 years that I've worked here, and I've seen, and we've sold collectible items, or special edition items new, and then taken them in 5, 6, 10 years later, generally they are worth less than they cost new, generally. Some pieces are so rare that it's hard to say because they don't come up for sale. Like I've never sold a pre-owned Zagato, so I don't actually know. So it does depend, but you shouldn't buy it thinking it's gonna go up in value. I really don't think you should do that.
Buy it because you like it.
You should buy it because you love it, especially at that price point when you're investing that kind of money. It should be something you're passionate about, something that gets you excited. Even if you don't use it, I respect that. You want to hold it. It is, special. Just to be able to look at it like a piece of art. If you enjoy looking at it, then you should get it. So that's a non-answer, but because there isn't really a good answer.
I think it's a good answer. Daryl missed the first hour, so we're gonna just start over now.
Hi, I'm Josh Lehrer. This is no I'm kidding. What does Mike want? What do you want, Mike? What are you bugging me in the chat for? You're gonna email me tomorrow anyway.
Let's see. What's your advice for buying used analog gear, cameras and lenses? Example, how to know the gear is working right, well cared for, whether things are advertised when buying from overseas, etc.
Well, I'm not going to comment on anything anyone else is selling because that would be presumptuous of me to do that. But what I'll say is this: pretty much every single analog camera that comes through our shop gets a service before I sell it, either at Leica, YYE, or DAG. Those are the three entities we have relationships with. The reason is because a digital camera, I can shoot 50 frames, look at the screen, and see what the pictures look like. It's easy to tell if it's not working. I can put a lens on and use live view to test if it's calibrated. A film camera, I can't do that. And no one who works here has the time to put a roll of film through a camera, get it developed, look at we can't do that. So we rely on our partners like DAG and YYE to service an item, warranty it, and give the buyer that peace of mind. So if there is an issue, we address it quickly. So for us, I'm not going to sell an analog item. The exceptions would be collectible pieces that we don't want to have tinkered with, or if something has
because if it has a seal, an unbroken seal,
right, an M3 with an original factory seal, or like a Hammertone MP or something crazy like that we don't want to give up.
It's worth less,
right? But otherwise, M3, M4, M6, any of those cameras are going to have a CLA service done before we sell it to give the buyer the peace of mind. Again, I'm not going to speak for anyone else. It is buy at your own risk. Anytime you buy anything from anyone, including us, obviously most places that are retail are going to have some kind of
caveat
return policy. But the reality is that I probably would not buy an analog M camera pre-MP, maybe an M7, it depends on how new it is, without either knowing that it was just serviced or getting it for a fair enough price that I could incorporate the cost of service into my budget.
I think that's good information. And what about lenses, Josh? What do you think?
Well, the way the lenses go is if you are buying used M lenses, you should have at least one digital M with live view. Even if you just buy the least expensive M240 on the market, have it calibrated, and just use it as a test platform for lenses, because you can use live view to cross-reference the rangefinder. So you open up live view, you focus the rangefinder, dial in as precisely as you can, and then you look at live view and you see, is it sharp or not? If it is sharp, the lens is calibrated. If it's not, the lens is not calibrated.
I would also add that calibration is not a only one distance kind of thing. You want to make sure to check your close focus and your infinity focus and your middle focus at like, say, 2 or 3 meters. Because calibration is not yes or no. You could actually have a calibrated lens at infinity, but not at close focus.
That's less of a situation with modern lenses. It's
but on older lenses.
Older stuff.
Yeah, he's talking about analog gear. So,
yeah.
You just want to check that out.
That was a good question, Mike. I had to give you a hard time, but I hope that makes sense. I want to answer Eve C's
Yeah,
question.
this is a good question.
I get this all the time.
I know.
And I want to answer this once and for all on the camera.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
And I saw that and I was like, yep, Josh is going to want to address this. Okay, is there an agreed set of guidelines for rating the condition of equipment? Example, as mint, excellent, very good, excellent plus, excellent minus. So what do you, or sometimes we'll see like 9.375829.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what is it?
The answer is no. The reason that other entities will use ratings is because they generally are not sharing images of the actual item that's for sale. So you rely on the rating to get an idea of the item's condition. Here at our shop, we have a gentleman named Tim. He's the man. He's been working for us for a long time. And he photographs on a product table with a macro lens every single item, whether it be a filter or an MP or anything in between, from every angle, close-ups of every little dust speck and nick and mark you could imagine. So why would I give someone a seemingly arbitrary condition rating when I could show you a comprehensive set of images of the actual item you're looking at purchasing? To me, while that's a lot more work, it's by far the most honest and clearest way to buy something. Now, if you've dealt with me before, you know that if we have an item that's listed with no photos, I'll take the item, put it on my desk. I've got the Lume Cube, the Lume panel, and I light the heck out of it with the harshest light that I can get my hands on.
Which, by the way, makes it look, in case
way worse.
you're missing
I pump up the shadows. So to show a potential buyer what it looks like. Now, there may be situations where I use ratings internally for my own reference, and I may refer to that on a call or in an email, but ratings only matter when you have something to compare it to. So if I have 8 used cues for sale, I may give someone a scale, a rating of a few of them, because sometimes it can be hard to digest all that information at once. So when there's a comparative situation going on, I think a rating has merit to a point. But I'm still always going to defer to Tim's work, where his full-time job is to get the stuff photographed and listed. So you can
all
buy
day,
something,
every day,
and you know exactly what you're buying because there's pictures of it right there.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not going to see us do ratings. We're going to tell you and show you exactly what it is that we're selling you.
No stock images.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next.
Let's see.
Well, this one's kind of related, Josh.
Yes.
How do you determine the price of a trade-in?
Call it the big 4. There are 4 major factors that determine the price of a given item. Number 1, condition, obviously. Condition is relative, though. What I mean is, here's an M2R from 1970. I don't expect this to be in like new condition. So my assessment of it will not be, oh, it's not like new, it's worthless. It's 40, 50, it's 50 years old. Versus...
Looks pretty good, though.
It does look pretty good. And these are quite rare, so fine. Versus, let's say, an M10P that's a year and a half old.
Or an M10 Monochrome.
Or an M10 Monochrome. I'll be far more critical. So number 1, that's condition. Condition relative to the item's age and provenance. Number 2, completeness from new. I talked about this earlier. When the item was brand new, it came with a certain set of things, box, packaging, caps, whatever. How much of that is still there? The more you have, the more it's worth. That's the second one. The third one is ownership history. Did you buy it new? Are you the original owner? Do you have the invoice? Do you have the provenance, the history, the backstory? That's worth more. Are you the 5th owner? That's okay, but it's worth less. That also includes warranty status, meaning if you bought a new M10P and you traded it back to me 6 months later, it's still got a year and a half of warranty left. That makes it worth more. Number 4, and this doesn't always apply, is service history. We talked about this a lot already. An item being serviced means it has generally some warranty left, means it gives me, even as a retailer, the peace of mind to know that it's going to work well.
Yeah.
So a mint condition, 100% complete, 1 owner, freshly serviced item is the most valuable, and everything else falls beneath it price-wise. In terms of like specific pricing, well, that's a lot more complicated because it depends on what we've sold them for in the past. How many do I have for sale right now? Did a new model just come out? Is the demand increasing? Do I have a waiting list for that item? It really...
There's also, a lot of items will also be traded in with extras as well.
Of course, right.
So how many extra batteries does it come with, and straps or cases?
Yes, that's a great point. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's like number 4.5 is
Yeah.
stuff beyond what it came with new, because I'll certainly try to give people more if it has an extra stuff. So there are a lot of variables that determine the price of an item, and it's not always that simple because there's all those things working in concert. And just like we talked about before, certain items with boxes will be worth more even if the condition isn't as nice because the boxes and packaging are more valuable. So yeah, it's what I do every day, 7 days a week, is I'm going through this equipment, is I'm looking at it, I'm testing it. You know, if you've ever emailed us up with a trading request, you've probably seen me pepper you with questions because that's going to allow me to give you the most accurate and generally the best trade-in price that I can give you the more I know about something. So,
well, let's say that someone wasn't trading in. Let's say that, obviously Josh is a used product expert and, does this every day, all day, and, is really good at determining values. But what about like just the average person who has, look, I've got a 90, no, it's not for sale. I've got a 90, I've got a 90 Elmer in here.
Can't have it.
Can't have it, it's mine. I've got this 90 Elmer at M lens, and I'm thinking about selling it. I don't necessarily want to commit to a sale, and I may not want to reach out to a retailer to tie them up.
Right.
I just want to get a rough idea of what this might be worth.
Yeah, that's fair.
So what approach as an end person, if I said, I'm thinking maybe of just listing it on the forums or putting it on eBay or something, but I want to get a good price. How do I know what this is?
Okay, there's a lot of resources available to you. Number one is obvious. Number one is eBay sold listings.
Now I can demonstrate that as well.
David, you want to pull up the old, or Jose, you want to pull up the old copy here? I'm not sponsored by eBay, or I have no opinion on them, positive or negative. I'm just saying this is a resource that we use, so let's make that clear. eBay allows you to search for items and see what they've sold for. That's not 100% reliable, but it gives you a reference point, especially when there's a bunch
And I need to point this out.
Yes.
Just because you see so-and-so selling something or asking for a certain price on eBay, that doesn't actually mean that's the market value.
Asking price is not the same as market value.
Right.
Market value is what someone is willing to pay you for that item today. Right. Asking price is whatever somebody wants to set arbitrarily on an item who has maybe no sense of urgency.
Well, and some of the listings you might see are either extraordinarily low because they're scams, and they're just trying, or they're starting at $1 and they want to start a bidding war.
Yeah.
Or two, excessively overpriced for the reason of attracting attention because a lot of people will sort by price because you think that the best condition item or the most desirable item is going to be the highest price.
Why don't we go to the computer, Jose, and we'll show people. Search for a 90 Elmer. Can we switch? There we go. We're on the old electronic bay.
All right, so here, I'm just searching for 90 millimeter Elmer M.
And then scroll down. You'll see on the left side, keep going.
Well, I just want to show also that you can see here that these are listings. Of course, this is not
this is not an eBay how-to, so I don't want to spend too much time on this.
But
I just want to show them the sold button. That's it. So just go to that.
Here we're going.
Yeah.
We're going
Sold
down
items.
here. I'm going to zoom in on that so you guys can see.
Yeah.
And you see this little checkbox: show only sold items.
And then you'll see if it's in green, that means it's been sold. So this will give you a reference point for what that particular item would sell for. So there's a 90 Elmer, 11.87.
So there you go. This is the same.
11.95. So that gives you, there's a data point. So that's number one. eBay is where I would start.
But what about the date? You want to talk
and
about
the date,
too?
well, they only show you within, I think, 30 days or something. So, so step one is eBay. Step two is KH, which is a huge entity that buys and sells everything used on the photo market. Actually has like a pricing, like what they'll offer you for it.
Yeah.
So you can actually go through that process, and that gives you an idea of the least possible amount you would get for the item, because that's basically a guaranteed sale. You send it to them, they're going to write you a check. You can also look at the classified section on the Leica user forum.
That's lcameraforum.com.
lcameraforum.com. You can look at older posts, and you can see where somebody may have dropped the price a couple of times, and then finally they say, oh, it was sold. So you can look there. If it's a rare enough piece,
under the classified section.
You can actually look at the Lights auction website, because they do have all of their past auctions listed and they're searchable. So if you're looking to sell a collectible or something unusual, you can use the Lights auction's past auction as a reference as well.
Is that at Lights?
Lights-auction.com.
Lights-auction.
You just Google it. So you've got that. Plus, you could also look at what are Leica stores online selling them for. That may not give you the best idea, but it will give you enough. And between all of these resources we have available to you, you could probably get some idea of what the item is worth. Here we go. So this is past auctions. You can search tons and tons of them. There's a search bar that comes up right there in the middle.
Yeah, so let's say if
M6.
I was going to do 90 millimeter Elmerit.
That's too many search terms from my experience.
All right, let's
keep
just
it simple. I do this all the time.
90 millimeter.
There we go. So there's not going to be that many. So is that a silver 90 Apo? Oh, sick. Oh, if anyone has one of these to sell me, please call me because I am dying to get my hands on one.
What about titanium though?
No, I want the silver one.
Okay.
So nice. Anyway, so yeah, that's how you can do a little bit of your own research. That was a long
so there's various resources. Also, I should show them also this. I mean, you can also look at, for current items, especially like M10s, M240s, you can also look at a reputable Leica dealer like.
Sure, you could pull this up. I don't want to. Well, we're not on the, but you could look at Leica Store Miami as well. But
throw it over here.
Most Leica retailers generally can command a higher price for stuff because we're a Leica store, so we have that reputation behind us.
Right.
Talked about that a bit earlier. So.
Yep.
All right, let's go to another question because I am taking too long.
A few questions just came in
ahead.
pertaining to trade-ins and stuff.
Fire away.
Come back to the wide shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
All right. We have a question from Lewis. Are the prices you offer different from a sale versus a trade-in?
Yes. When Leica Store Miami, and this I'm just going to quote our policy as of today, which is August 15th. When Leica Store Miami accepts Leica equipment for trade-in for something else that we have, we give 80% of the item's fair market value, which we've talked about how we determine. 80%. When we buy it outright, we offer 70% of fair market value. I should mention, we don't buy or trade everything that's offered to us. So if you offer me something and I don't want it, don't take it personally. It just depends on the day of the week. It depends on what I'm working on.
Example?
What? Oh, like our expertise and our sales customer base, they look to us for M cameras. So we don't do anything like a thread mount. I would go to Tamarkin in Chicago for that. Shout out to them. We just don't do it. We know where our expertise stops, and we stay focused on that. And I'm glad that there are other people out there that have expertise in thread mount. I think it's awesome. It's a huge part of Leica's history. We just don't do it. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means we don't do it. We do a lot. We don't do that. So.
And what about here?
Do we sell on commission? Generally, no. We don't offer a consignment program unless it's something that's so rare
it's hard to value,
or so unusual that we can't put a firm price on it. Then we will do that. It is very unusual. It's case by case. So if you have something like that, contact me and I'll give you, more details about that. But it's pretty unusual. Most of the time, we're either buying or trading. Are there questions related to that?
It's more clear cut. Yes, this also.
Oh, well, just one more
before
I forget. Do you accept trade-ins for non-Leica cameras and lenses that is used to defray the cost of new and or used Leica gear?
We do not.
Generally, no.
We are a Leica store. We, as you can tell if you watched any of our past 16 episodes, we know a lot about Leica, but that's where our expertise ends, purposely. My brain is full enough. There's a lot of amazing camera brands out there. David has shot them, but we only deal in Leica. So if you have non-Leica gear to trade, we're not going to take it.
There's other resources for that.
There are. I mean, unless it's personally interested. No, I'm kidding. I don't want it.
I once actually almost took a car on trade, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Story for another day.
Do you usually have more inventory than is listed on the website?
No. It's very unusual because if I have it, I want to sell it. And if I'm going to sell it,
there's a but though.
It's going to be on the website.
But there is a lot of items that you'll take on trade that you immediately pack up and send to service. So they're in the pipeline and not published.
It's rare that there'd be something ready to sell that's not listed for sale. There is plenty of stuff that I have. I have 50 pieces in for service at any given time. I have stuff that's pending I haven't looked at yet. That's why the website, the new arrival section, is updated every single day, pretty much, because it's a constant influx of stuff that I get in from trade and that I buy, and stuff coming back from service and everywhere.
This is an interesting question.
Yes.
I mean, and I think it depends on when, but which used lenses fly off the shelf and which sit around for a while? I'd actually amend that question.
I'm not going to answer that question because that will give it. No.
I'm gonna amend that question.
Yes.
Which lenses have a waiting list for used versions of them?
Yeah.
Before even flying off the shelf, you'll actually never. I will say that there is used items that never even show up on the site because there is sort of a, people have put in a wish list.
Yes, I have actual waiting lists for many pieces, which is awesome. I mean,
as in like,
complaining.
if you ever get
Yeah.
a used X, Y, or Z in this kind of condition, give me a call.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's hard to say because there was a time when I had piles of 3514 floating elements. I'd have 3 or 4 for sale at a given time, and I couldn't give them away. Now, I have a waiting list for them. So it's so temperamental that I couldn't say, I could only tell you maybe today, that could change tomorrow. Traditionally, what takes the longest to sell? Maybe previous version, 35 Summicron is spherics, because the second version is not that much more. I don't know. It's too specific. It's hard to say because stuff moves so quickly. I mean, if I mistakenly make something too expensive, it's not going to sell. I don't do that on purpose ever. There we go. But if I misprice something, which I've done, I mean, I'm only human, then it sits for a while and I go, wait a minute, that's not selling. Why is that? Oh, it's priced too high, so I adjust. But it's so random. But I do have waiting lists for a lot of pre-owned equipment. Like, I'll tell you. So this piece that I pulled earlier, this 35 Summicron black paint, this is a rare thing because you may not see this on the website, but I physically have it in my possession right now. Or what about this Leica M6 TTL LHSA edition black paint .72 complete boxed as new with every scrap of original paperwork it came with.
See, now you're just showing off. Now you're just showing off.
I'm a jerk, I know.
Yeah.
This will probably end up on the site for about 14 seconds because these are very hard to get, and I may just keep this for myself because I want it. So, you know, it just depends. It does depend on the item. So, yeah, that's a non-answer. I guess I'm good at that. But next.
Why do you need to have my trade-in before I buy something?
That's a fair question. So,
well, all the things that Josh spoke about before, the 4.5 things, the 5 things, it's hard to determine without actually holding it in your hand. It's hard to determine without actually physically going through the box and seeing what's inside of it.
Well, I'll give a great example.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to trade in a 28 Summilux to buy a 50 Apo, right? 2 high-dollar items, a lot of money, changing hands, special stuff. They say, well, what I want to do is buy the 50 Apo from you outright, and then I'll send you my 28 Summilux, and then you'll credit me back. But I have to make sure that I get the quoted trade-in credit because my budget's only whatever your quoted difference was. Let's make up a number and say it was $3,000. So, sure, I sell them a 50 Apo brand new, they send me their 28 Summilux. Well, that 28 Summilux had a scratch on the rear element, and it had to be serviced. So suddenly I can't take that lens in because I can't sell it. So now I feel bad because that customer doesn't get the money back they were expecting. Their budget's all out of whack. And I have something I can't sell to anyone. So that's why every item that is traded has to come in before I sell you the thing you're trading for. Because I need to make sure that what I'm getting is resellable and matches the description. I'm not going to accuse anyone of misleading me because that really doesn't happen. It's more that I look at thousands of lenses a year. You look at your lens. So I have a much better reference point as to what it's supposed to look like and what may be wrong with it that you may not. That's why you work with us, because we can figure that stuff out. So, you know, obviously, to be clear, if I have one of something and you want to trade for it, as soon as you send me the tracking number that your trade-in's coming, I'm going to pull that item off the site. I'm not going to be like, oh, someone else bought it while it was being shipped, so sorry. I am kind of a jerk, but not a jerk like that. So I do, we try to be as fair as we can, but our policy is pretty strict. If you're trading something, I got to have your trade in first. And then I'll sell you the thing you're trading against. And that's just like a Summarit M. I'm not going to speak for any other reseller. That's just our policy. Whew.
Okay.
These answers are getting intense.
A little intense.
We have one here from Damien. Do you advise updating an original M75 Summilux with 6-bit coating done by Leica? Will this update add resale trade-in value?
Yes, because at the same time they 6-bit code it, they also give it a service. So you're going to have a lens that's freshly serviced and you get a 1-year warranty on it, at least in the US. Here's an example where I wouldn't do that. I got earlier this year an F1 Noctilux, an E58, that was never used. It was never mounted on a camera. Now, a regular F1 Noctilux would be worth more if it was 6-bit coded and serviced. But this Noctilux had never even been mounted. So I actually sold it as a new lens. I mean, not as a new lens, but as a, as they call it dead stock or as new, which I'd never seen before. It was crazy. And I regret selling it because, you know, I probably should have kept it. But it was a beautiful piece, so thank you to the gentleman who traded it in. But that was a lens where, no, a service would have been detrimental to that. But a 75 Summilux, if it, you know, doesn't need a service, I may not just send it in arbitrarily for 6-bit. I may wait until it needs an overhaul. But no, I don't think it's going to hurt the value of the lens unless it is like unused or something wild like that.
But if you're using it, and also 75 Summilux, I mean, happens to be, I don't know, a more exotic used lens anyway.
They want me to unbox the...
I saw.
Check this out, people. This is awesome.
You teased everyone.
I know. Michelle, if you're watching this, thank you again. Strap in the original box. Okay, check this out. Look at
Hold on. Wait for your close-up, Josh.
Well, no, this is the wide shot.
Okay.
Look at all the paperwork that comes... There is
Josh loves paperwork.
Phone book worth of paperwork included with this thing. I mean, this was bought in Japan. So it's got like Japanese warranty cards and Japanese.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Look at this. Here we go. I got the COA signed by Hans-Peter Kohn, the CEO of Leica at the time. Can you get a close-up shot on this, please? Look at that. Sweet. So I'll show the paperwork close up here. So look at this. This is why you keep your stuff. This paperwork may add $500 to the value of this camera. And then, of course, we've got the original presentation box. That's what I call this. I call this the presentation box. Like a old school Leica script. And then, gets better, we've got the original plastic bag that the camera came in. Sweet. And then, of course, the pièce de résistance. There she is. Ah, beautiful. Black paint. It just, oh, there we go. It glimmers. Base plate, original plastic film.
Someone actually asked a question about that.
If you buy a collectible or special edition M camera and you want to use it, which is fine, buy another base plate that fits it. Take the original base plate, put it in the box, and never touch it. You will thank me later. Black painted strap lugs
very nice.
From the factory. MP Advance. This thing is a stunner. So I guess maybe keep an eye out for this on the website if someone doesn't snatch it before it gets listed. But that is beautiful. So again, this is the kind of item that keeping the original box.
Check this out also.
Oh, the red, the red velour.
Very cool.
So
very
cool.
I
wish Leica still did this, but
I mean now it's gray foam now.
Yeah, not quite as exciting as it used to be. So.
Although I'm not a fan of the marbled look.
How much? I don't know. I don't own it yet, and I haven't priced it yet.
We told we're not doing.
Well, no, that's just something we're gonna sell. I don't know. I knew that people would ask me that, and I shouldn't have brought it up.
Oh yeah, I see how much.
It's so cool. If you're serious about buying this camera, just email me. I'm happy to give you a heads up when it is listed for sale, if it gets to that point.
Oh my gosh.
What?
No, Mark. Apparently, PG&E just shut off his power. He only has 6 minutes left on his UPS. Don't worry. No. You can watch it on playback.
That's
Mark.
right.
You're all good.
We're not just disappearing after this, but let's keep going because we are crushing it right now.
Yes, we agree they should do more black paint cameras. That's not today's discussion, though.
But nobody's disagreeing with that because we love it too.
Yes.
Next.
Okay. How can I? No, we did that one already.
I
have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Ask away.
Because you mentioned it, and I think you breezed by it a little quickly.
Yes.
So one, well, let's say this is in two parts. One, you said if you have a special edition camera, an M specifically, make sure buy a replacement base plate.
Yes.
Put the original one in the box and use the replacement and put the wear on that one.
Yes.
And then if you want to sell it, put the original back on.
Yes.
Well, what about if I have a regular old, that's not a regular old M10P here, okay, and what if this one happens to have a nice plastic on the base plate. My opinion, by the way, to directly answer that question is, there is no reason to remove the plastic off any base plate.
Yeah.
I mean, ever. So don't.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at in this M8, even though the plastic is a little bit bubbly.
That's an old camera.
Here, do you want to show them? It's like, okay, this camera is 15 years old. The plastic is bubbled a little bit, but that's pretty minor versus that if that plastic was removed, that base plate would be really scratched. So this is a great example of why not to take your plastic off.
Yeah. And this is I mean, this is a pretty old camera, so.
Yeah, it's quite old.
And you can see it's got some marks on the top.
A little bit. Well,
yeah, it's not bad.
It's a user, so.
But there's another part of that.
Yes.
So let's say that my base plate's all beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that seem like a pretty easy way to refresh my camera to get a replacement base plate and put it on before I sell it?
It depends. They're about $320 for a replacement base plate. I don't think that will add that much to the resale value unless your base plate is damaged.
Like
if it's just
really
worn,
bad,
no, I wouldn't worry about it, especially if the rest of the camera reflects that wear. I've seen, somebody lost their base plate and they have a beat up or well-used M240 with brass showing, and they buy a brand new base plate. It just looks out of place. It looks it sticks out. So
what about, what if I have, and I'm asking for a friend, what if I have a dented top plate? Now that seems
that's not user replaceable, but yeah, you probably would want to get that at least have that camera serviced, so the person who buys it knows that despite the dent, it doesn't impact the camera's functionality because it's had a post-dent service.
Now because usually people would look at that and say it was dropped or impact damage, something pretty major. The top plates on these are pretty tough.
Yes.
What would be the average cost? I know it's going to depend on the camera.
Over $1,000 for the most part, because that is one singular piece. So if they're going to replace it, I don't want to speak for Leica customer cares, but it's pretty expensive relative to the cost of the camera. On an M10P or an M10 Monochrom, something high dollar, it's as a lower percentage of the camera's overall value. May make sense. But on an M240, I wouldn't bother.
Right.
Unless it was a special edition. Then yes, I definitely would.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got in the chat?
Are silver or black cameras worth more later on?
Oh, I love that question. The answer is it depends. So traditionally, but I'm going to give an answer. Black paint and silver, when black paint and silver chrome are offered, black paint always sells for more. M240 is a great example of this. MP film camera is a great example of this. But when it's black chrome versus silver chrome, as in the M10 or even the M7, the values are much closer. So it depends more on the condition and the completeness than it does the color. Traditionally, black is more desirable, although black chrome, that finish wears more generally than the silver chrome finish. So on average, the overall condition of all the black chrome M10s out there is a little bit less than all the silver chrome M10s. So the fact that black may be a bit more desirable is offset by that. So it depends. M9P, I feel like, is the same.
What do you think about lenses, though? Because there's definitely a lot more black lenses than there is silver lenses, especially in the modern era.
Well, it again depends. So silver 50 lux, which is silver chrome, which is brass, worth more. But that finish happens to be a little more delicate than the black one. So if it's really clean, yes, like this lens that's on this camera right here. It's interesting because if you look in the last 20 years, the silver chrome lenses that Leica has discontinued, 50 Summicron silver chrome, 35 Summicron silver chrome, 24
90
Elmarit,
F2, Apo.
90. Those are always worth more because they'd stop making them.
Or there's so few of them.
But nowadays, with the black anodized and silver anodized finish, where they're both aluminum barrels, their prices are very close. The higher desirability of black is offset by the rarity of silver, because we just sell less silver ones. So they do tend to be pretty close to each other.
I think it comes back, again, to what we already said.
Yeah.
Don't buy the camera that you think is going to be the best value later on. Buy what you like.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is no denying that, like, there are some people going to say, wow, a silver camera with a silver lens just looks awesome.
I'm just seeing Ted's comment. Let's auction it. We could have a live auction of the M6. That could be an idea for a future live stream, by the way. If we're legally allowed to do that.
I think there's legal issues.
We'll have to look into that. That would be fun. Okay.
But some people like the aesthetic of all black or black paint or whatever. So don't make your aesthetic decisions based on financial outcomes or theoretical financial outcomes. Right. Make your aesthetic decisions based on aesthetics and what you like.
Yes.
And what is
because you're the one who has
to
to use the stuff, so you should like it.
What do you want to see in your camera bag, on your desk, in your hands, out shooting, and what is going to bring you the most joy?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are so many options. We're spoiled for choice, new and pre-owned, that you can get exactly what you want and enjoy it and love it.
Or you can be like me and have a black lens and a silver lens.
Maury's
'Cause I like
question.
both.
This our M orbit there.
Oh, do Safari version of M digital bodies hold more of their original value than a black or a silver one?
So there's been 3 Safaris. M8.2 Safari, which came with the 28 element, super rare. If you have the lens, really good investment over time.
Silver, by the way.
Yeah, silver 20 element. MP240 Safari, which came with the silver 35 Summicron. That, if it's a set, it definitely has more value than if it was the standard stuff, but not that much. I will say that that Safari finish is pretty delicate, so if it's well used, it's going to sell for the same as a black or silver one. M10P Safari is a bit too new for me to know for sure. They only made 1,500 of them, so I think, I'm going to say it now, I think M10P Safari is the next good buy if you get it for a good price. I'm not going to say what that good price is because I don't actually know, but if you feel good about it, I think the M10P Safari is really cool. I don't see a lot of them. Yeah, that is an interesting one.
I also like this comment too.
I buy it just for the paperwork? Yeah. I'm not going to be splitting that up. I'm sorry.
And there's a lot of drool. Perfect.
Yes.
That is wow. I have to keep an eye on that emoji. There's actually
the drool emoji.
Yeah, Will actually put like just I can't even count how many. A bunch of drool emojis. I didn't even know that was a thing.
All right. What else we got in the old? Well, David, you poked through the chat.
Yeah,
Jose, what do you got?
I have one ready. Question from Timothy.
Okay.
I have a film MP with some beautiful brassing marks. If I get it repainted by a professional, would it hurt its value?
Yes. Do not get it repainted. Part of the MP's charm is the way that it wears. I'll show that because I happen to have a boxed MP. Ooh. So
Josh just happens to have all.
I just have things just flopping
There's
around.
like a lot of stuff under here.
Don't show them any of my secret stash. Okay, so the MP, which is the pen. Let's get a close up going here. The penultimate analog M. Oh, thank you, David. This is a beautiful black paint MP. Now, the way that these wear is fantastic. I don't know if you can tell.
It's a little tough
You
to
get
tell.
wear on the touch point. So the end of the advanced lever, yeah, you can't see that. You get wear here. You tend to get wear around the edge of the shutter speed dial, on the sides of the camera, and the base plate. So, and also right here where your finger tends to kind of fall. I think no matter what condition an MP is in, a black paint MP is a beautiful, beautiful object to be cherished and to be used. It does get more beautiful as you use it. And yes, if you're looking for one that's new in the box or that's mint condition like this one, that's fine. But I do think if you're going to use it, use it. And as it brasses, it's just going to look really, really nice. Really, really just warm and rich and magical. So I would say do not get an MP repainted.
No.
That is my thoughts on that.
I mean, the brassing, you'll actually notice there's been special editions that, like the Lenny Kravitz
the correspondence set, which
set,
was like pre-brass, which was awesome.
pre-brassed, and then lacquered to lock it in.
Yeah,
It's kind of an interesting thing.
Or the Jim Marshall, which was
Well, the
all
Jim
brass.
Marshall was, I mean, basically not painted at all. It was
Look at this.
just brass.
Original paperwork, all the original manual, the original warranty card, even the extra battery cover in the little bag. Oh, I love it.
Josh loves paperwork.
I am a giant nerd, but hey, this video is like, this is what this is about. So no, I don't want to hear it.
This is Josh's favorite video.
Yeah, they're all my favorites.
And in fact, look back at historical pictures, like of Jim Marshall, for instance, where he's got cameras hanging from every body part, and they are just beat to hell and brassed, and they're gorgeous.
What else we got in the chat there, David? Anything good? I mean, come on, you guys. We're got another 20 minutes.
Should one fill in the warranty card, or is it worth more to have it in its original shape when traded?
I mean, any Leica product you buy brand new today from an authorized Leica reseller in the USA, to register the warranty, you just need to register the camera online and have a copy of the purchase invoice that shows the serial number. You don't need to fill out the warranty card. So I probably wouldn't. And who wants to fill out paperwork anyway? That's boring.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the value of used Leica medium format?
Like an S.
So
'cause
that's
the
interesting. There is a general understanding in the medium format market, film and digital, Leica and everyone else, that they depreciate like crazy. And the reason is because medium format cameras are, number one, very expensive when brand new because they're designed to be very, very high-end professional tools. Number two, there are just not a lot of them out there. So as the cameras get replaced with newer models, there's only so many cameras out there. There's only so many people looking for them. They tend to be great deals pre-owned. So it's kind of a win-win. You buy a new one, you get an amazing tool, cutting edge, gives you incredible pictures. You use it for a few years or you keep it forever, use it, you sell it. The next person gets maybe something a couple years old or a few generations old, but they're still getting a tool that's as good today as it was then. You know, the market is weird right now, especially for Leica, because the S3 is slowly starting to roll out, which means we're going to see more 007s show up pre-owned. You know, we're in a state of flux right now for the S system for bodies. Lenses have been going up. Lenses were grossly underpriced for years. Now they're finally getting the recognition that they deserve, rightfully so. If you've seen our video on S lenses, if you've read David's article on S lenses, you understand why. If you haven't, watch it and read it. Next question.
Okay, I didn't see the initial question, but David, no relation, says, okay, I'll ask again, but I'm sorry, David, I didn't see your initial question.
There's so much coming in, I'm sorry.
What about open box items? How used are they?
I can't answer that because we don't sell items as open box.
It's either new or it's used. There's no...
Yeah, I think an item is only new when you buy it brand new from an authorized Leica reseller.
As a first buyer.
Open box, that term, I don't really know. If a Leica store is saying it's open box, I don't even know if that's legitimate, with some rare exceptions I can think of over the years. But, you know, any item you buy pre-owned, get the serial number, try to find out when it was purchased new and from where, get that backstory on it, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think the old adage of, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Just use good sense because, like Josh keeps warning, there's a reason he keeps warning about it because we have seen people get burned with this.
Yeah.
Where I got an insane deal on X, Y, or Z, I can't even believe it.
There's a reason.
There's a reason you can't believe it because probably something's not kosher with it.
Ask me Luis's question over there.
What's that?
Do you actively look that one?
Do you actually actively look for rare pieces?
Oh, here. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Jose, go ahead.
Do you actively look for rare pieces or do you have your hands full with what people send you?
Both.
He has his hands full and he wants stuff. He's a big nerd.
I'm looking at trade-in 7 days a week most of the time, but I wouldn't give that up for anything. I get a balance. I get cool stuff, rare stuff, special editions, and I'm always looking for more. I'm always looking for cool stuff. And I get lots of regular stuff, M10s and Qs and you name it. So we try to cater to as wide of an audience as we can. So we'll have a used C-Lux, a used S-Type 007, a used MP. I mean, it just, you know, again, I don't take everything that everyone offers me, but I will consider anything anyone offers me. So if you send me a trading request, even if you think I may not want it, I won't just dismiss the email or the phone call. I'll consider it. And if I can't buy it, I'll give you alternative options, places to look to sell it, or any other advice that I can. So yes, if you have cool stuff, please tell me I want it.
This is a little more esoteric, but tips identifying fake vintage Leicas, and I think that falls into the category of, especially pre-M.
Yeah.
There was a lot more fake, knockoff cameras in the screw mount era, and like Josh said, that's not really our.
Yeah, I can't answer that question because I don't know.
But I think the Ask an Expert on LHSA.org would be an amazing place to start.
Say it again. Where can I go?
Right. So if you want to look, especially and get some serious knowledge on screw mount cameras and determining whether something is authentic or fake, because a lot of those things, a lot of those cameras, it's really hard to identify even which generation specifically they are, because you might have one vintage camera that was replaced with newer parts that kind of sort of looks like a newer one, but it isn't a newer one, or it was just a complete knockoff and then painted gold, but it's not really, etc. If you want serious knowledge on that, definitive information, I would check out the LHSA.org website, and they have an Ask an Expert. And these guys know everything there is to know about this stuff. I think that would be a great place to start if you're worried what you have is, priceless or priceless.
Yeah. What else we got? There's got to be new stuff in there, Jose.
Yeah, I've seen some used Leica items listed for sale at Leica dealers as CPO. Is that actually a thing?
Yes, it is.
Well, again, I'm not going to speak for any other
Well,
Leica store
we can speak to
or
it.
dealer other than us ourselves, because we are privately owned. So, certified pre-owned product. Generally, the one thing that it means is that it has warranty. And I don't mean there's an item or a situation where an item may have factory warranty remaining. That's a running clock, meaning if I have an item whose warranty expires December of 2021, if it takes me 6 months to sell it, that eats into 6 months of the warranty. If I have a certified pre-owned item that comes with a 1-year warranty and it takes me 6 months to sell it, the warranty doesn't actually start until somebody buys it. That's the real difference.
It's like a new item.
An item that's certified pre-owned doesn't mean it's been refurbished. That's different. That's a refurbished item, and it may. In my listings, I'm going to say recent Leica CLA or recent DAG CLA, or at least in the description. Many items that we get from Leica USA are certified pre-owned, and they are refurbished. SLs, M10s, lenses, so that's very common. But it doesn't mean, it just simply means one thing, which is that it has a warranty that begins when you buy it, not a running warranty that ends at a fixed date. That's the only real difference between certified pre-owned and an item with factory warranty.
Well, I think it also should be made clear, a certified pre-owned item means that as a reseller, it came not from a trade-in from a customer, but actually from the manufacturer.
That's mostly true.
Usually,
yeah,
9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I would say that's mostly true.
Yeah.
There's, like anything else in life, there's always
There's going to be an
small gray
exception.
areas, but generally, yes, that's mostly true.
That's a good question. Old man. Old man Ferguson.
Old man.
Old man Ferguson asks,
Oh, boy.
is there a database that you can check for lost or stolen Leicas before doing a deal? You absolutely should. It's not a public database, but different Leica agencies around the world, including Leica USA, do maintain a stolen product database by serial number and item. So you can call up customer service and they can check for you if you give them the information. So it is always a good idea to make sure that you get the serial number of the item. I've seen far too many listings online where I guess, I don't know, for privacy concerns or because it's a legit scam, but the serial number was, let's say on the front of the lens, the serial number was actually blacked out or blurred out.
Yeah.
Well,
if you're going to do that, at least be willing to give the serial number to anyone who asks, I would say.
Well, no, I'm saying as a buyer.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so as a buyer, if someone has a blacked out serial number, you want to give them benefit of the doubt. Oh, they're doing it for privacy reasons so that someone doesn't go register their item.
Yeah.
But always say, hey, listen, maybe you don't want to publish this, but what is the serial number? And can you send me a picture with that serial number on it? Just to make sure they actually have that item and they're not giving you a different serial number because there's no way for you to tell otherwise. Yeah. And, again, buyer beware. You got to keep on your toes. As a Leica store or Leica dealer, obviously every item that comes in is going to be checked. It's just...
Yeah, I should make that clear. So every single piece of equipment that comes through our doors is tested by me. Firmware is updated as needed. It's cleaned as best I can cosmetically. I'll put a puff of air across the sensor, make sure the sensor is as clean as I can be. I don't sell it if it doesn't work. If I wouldn't take it out for a weekend and use it, I'm not going to list it for sale. Now, it doesn't mean I don't miss things. I'll be the first to admit that. Everything you buy from us has a 30-day warranty at least, but it's not like you say, here's my Q trade, and great, and I put it on the shelf and I sell it. No. So I'm gonna mention this, and then I'm gonna mention something unrelated because I want to show a little gizmo I have here before I forget. David, of the digital Leica cameras that I take on trade, which are many, what percentage in your mind do not have the current firmware installed? Take a guess. What percentage of traded in, meaning digital cameras that somebody was using that are traded in, do not have current firmware?
You want my...
What do you really think it is?
What I hope it is, or
what you
look? I'm going to say what I hope. What I hope
what do
it
you
is.
What do you hope it is?
Is 100% of the people out there are staying.
So 0% is what you're saying.
I'm saying right. I would hope it's 0%. That every single person.
Yes,
it's not a digital. I know it's not. I'm saying what I'm hoping. What I'm hoping is that every single person stays on top of firmware updates and keeps updating their camera to stay current, to get the latest features, improvements, stability. all that.
The answer to
What do
that,
I think it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I feel like we're trying to do pennies in the cookie jar.
Why don't I just say this?
I'm going to say
yes.
40%.
Yeah, well, I did the math because I checked over the past few weeks. 88% of the digital Leica cameras that we take on trade-in that I evaluate do not have current firmware. What that means is
That's a lot.
88% of the people watching this video that have digital Leica cameras are using old firmware. You're gonna have a high risk of bugs. You're missing out on features. If it's got Wi-Fi, it's probably not compatible with the latest version of the Leica Photos app because those go hand in hand. Please, 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 please update your firmware. Not for my sake, but yes, for my sake. For your sake, because it's a tool that you've invested in. That money that Leica gets from selling you something, part of that goes to paying a bunch of software engineers to constantly be adding features and fixing bugs. I've seen SLs come in with the first version of the firmware. You know how many features that they've added in between 1.0 and 3.7?
You know what this is right here?
Hundreds of features.
You know what this is right here? The look of disapproval.
So please, 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 88% of the cameras I get. Now I get it, it's not always super easy. You can call us for help. You can go
There's
to Red
video.
Dot-
We have videos on
Red
every
Dot
single
Forum.
system.
Red Dot Forum has videos about how to update these things. We are here for you people. We love you and we need you and we're here for you.
Just if you want to check on your firmware to see if you do have the latest or what improvements come with it or how to update it, go to red.forum.com, type in the search bar, firmware. We have articles on every single firmware release in the last 10 years and for every different camera. So you can see right there what your firmware should be, and there's links to download it and how to install it. Please, even if you're not trading it in, even if you're not selling it, please, please, please update your firmware, stay current, and get the most out of these cameras.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
As you can see, David and I get very heated about these things, but you work 7 days a week for a decade. You're gonna
We're passionate.
You get a bit crazy. So I want to show.
You can update the firmware.
I want to show something that has
That's a
nothing to
joke.
do with what we're talking about, but I happen to have a captive audience, and it's a new toy that I'm going to start offering for sale on a limited basis. So there's been a lot of talk about analog M's in the chat and questions about analog M's. Now, this is relevant to that. Now, on an analog M camera, if I can get a close-up here, and actually any M camera up to and including the M9, the frame lines in the viewfinder are projected by available light, meaning this little Fresnel lens right here gathers up the available light and projects the frame lines in the viewfinder. The M240 introduced LED illuminated frame lines. So those frame lines are illuminated internally and not relying on available light. So with any pre-M240 M camera, meaning M9, M8, and every single film Leica, you are relying on available light. If you're shooting in a very dim situation or even a moderately lit room, it can be difficult to see the full extent of the frame lines, especially if you wear glasses, because you're relying on the available light to illuminate the frame lines. So we've talked a couple of times about DAG. DAG camera is a Leica third-party repair facility. So Don Goldberg, he's been doing it forever. He is a master. So Don at DAG camera has a little invention. I will say these are made one at a time by Don. They're all a little bit different. They look a little industrial, but we're not going to judge them by the way they look. This is the DAG frame lighter. If you search our website, you'll find there's no pictures yet. I haven't given it to our photographer. What is the DAG frame lighter? That's frame lighter. What this is a small battery-powered hot shoe mounted LED light that projects a constant and bright light source over your frame line illumination window. So you flip it down, there's a power switch on the top right here, turn it on. You can see it stays on for 1 minute, and you can change that based on there's like a little set screw in here. You can't really see it, but it's in there. This makes the frame lines on an analog M or an M8 or an M9 look like they're LED illuminated, because they are. So in a dimmer situation, you see it's not even that bright. It's not going to be obnoxious, and you can slide it in a little bit. Just get it right. There we go. So it's pressed up right against it, so you can't even see it. This makes the frame lines glow. It makes them really, really easy to see. And David and I experimented with this earlier. You can actually take little like colored flash filters, like little red gels, put it over this LED and turn the frame lines any color you want. So if you want red frame lines, if you're shooting in low light and you don't want your low light vision to be compromised, you just take a red, gel, flash gel, and you tape it over this thing with some clear tape, and boom. And see it folds down like that. So this is a new toy that we are just starting. I got a couple in, because again, Don makes these one at a time from parts that he has lying around. It kind of fits the aesthetic of this M2R. I think it is very industrial.
It's pretty cool. Of course, everyone's gonna be like, is he gonna offer it in silver chrome?
I mean, I think he uses the hot shoe from from the old Leica meter MCs.
Oh yeah.
I love that though, and I think if you're shooting a lot of analog or M8 or M9, and you found that the frame lines can get a bit dim, especially the 35 or 28 frame lines, depending on the camera you're using, the frame lighter will solve that problem. It is one of those things that you're like, why do I need this? I know Kirsten, my colleague Kirsten, she has an M4P and an M9. I just shipped her one of these. She got it a few days ago. Her first text message was, what is this thing? And then she goes, oh, because she saw the way it illuminates the frame lines, the way it makes them just glow nice and even, which means they're really, really easy to see. It makes composing in low to middle lights or moderate light situations much easier. So if there's interest in this, we'll carry more. We only have a handful of them. It's called the Frame Lighter. It's on our website. There's no pictures yet. I'm sorry, but you can see it.
It's pretty cool.
You're seeing it here. This is the world introduction via Red Dot Forum, at least, of the DAG Frame Lighter. So thank you, Don, for making something cool for a nerd like me.
That is pretty cool.
Anyway.
No, you can't use it on an M240 or an
No,
M10.
because they don't have the frame line illumination. So again, it's just, I don't usually just plug stuff on here because that's not how we do things, but this is such a cool and specific item that I don't think people would understand unless they saw me explain it. And
admittedly, I poo-pooed it until about 2 hours ago. And
That's
I was
right.
like,
David was like, what is this thing? We put it on what did we have, an M8, right? I think we put it on this M8.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And he went, like he literally saw the light. So.
And then I was like, wait, I'm gonna go get some gels. Because of course, it's like, you gotta
make the frame lines bright red. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't tried before, so.
You just have to use a very deep color gel, not a light color gel.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't work on a 240 or an M10P or any of those. It's M9 and older it works on. Or an M7 or an MP, I guess, or an MA.
And Lewis, yes, you can put it on your M10P.
It won't do much.
It's not going to do anything.
It'll look cool.
But it will look cool.
All right, let's do a few more questions and we'll call it an evening. What do we got? Anything? Do I have any email questions? I want to get all this stuff.
Well, I'm gonna ask a question that sort of we've, I guess, touched on here and there, but never really addressed head on.
Okay.
And I did see a comment somewhere a question in the comments or a comment in the comments. Basically, how much more would someone expect to pay for a used item from an authorized seller, say like a store, versus a private sale? And what are they really getting for that premium, if there is a premium?
Yeah. Well, there may not always be a premium. So I'm not going to answer that question because it depends. The reality is a private seller, in most scenarios, is not in a rush to sell their item, which means they can set the price as high as they want and let it sit. Whereas a retailer like us, we have to turn things over. That's how we do business. So I'm not going to put some ludicrous price on something, let it sit there for a year. I'm going to price it to sell. So we're actually incentivized to move product more than a private individual will be. When you buy from an authorized reseller, well, just like I've been talking about all night, is David and I have years and years of experience, and we've seen probably tens of thousands of cameras and lenses between the two of us. So our reference point to how an item should look, function, and what it should come with is a lot clearer than the average individual who just buys maybe a camera a year or two. So we have a much clearer sense of what it's supposed to come with. Does it have the little, nylon fabric-y bags? Does it have the hot shoe cover? Does it have the, I'm trying to find more stuff.
Paperwork.
Paperwork. I don't know, nothing. Look, obviously we're biased. This is what we do for a living, but we still want to give you an honest answer. I am buying things from private sellers all the time.
Sure.
Right? So here's a good example of, and I find it quite pleasurable. Most people who are Leica enthusiasts are fascinating and fun to work with and fun to talk to and have a true interest in the gear.
Do you know how many phone calls I get from Josh? You're never gonna guess what I just got. What I have here sitting on my desk.
So much cool stuff. If you guys could only take a peek into my office right now, it would be. We should do like a behind the scenes tour one day on a live stream, like a Blair Witch Project style video. So yeah, I think there's again, I'm biased, but I do think there's a lot of advantage to going to any qualified, authorized retailer.
Well, also, let's say, in our case, I mean, even a product that doesn't have a warranty, let's say an analog camera, right? Obviously, there is no factory warranty on that, but it's still going to come with a...
Well, this was CLA, so it's got a 1 year.
Well, okay. That's a wrong example. But let's say,
sorry.
you know, whatever... Okay, this Q is not going to come with a factory warranty because it's clearly... It's a 5-year-old camera, right? Or a 4-year-old camera. But it's still going to come with at least a 30-day used warranty from the store. A private seller is going to be like, it is what it is. Right? You're buying it from me as is.
You assume all the risk.
Yeah.
I want to show the least expensive thing that we don't even sell. That's the most important tool that I use for cleaning up trade-ins. These are Post-it notes. Very exciting. However, these are not your average Post-it notes. These Post-it notes have the sticky stuff over the entire back. Now you may say to me, Josh, why the heck are you showing Post-it notes on your Red Dot Forum camera talk? Well, if I have an M camera, Jose, can I get a close-up, please?
Oh my.
Obviously, as any kind of seller wants to do, whether it's me or a random guy or girl selling their equipment, you're going to photograph it. You're going to show someone what it is they're buying. Well, you want it to look as nice as you possibly can make it, ideally. So you take your lens cloth, here we go, and you clean up the top plate, and you clean off the screen, and you blow it with the blower bulb, which I have somewhere, I'll give it the works. But it just so happens that the area around the shutter button, power switch, and shutter speed dial can be very tricky to keep clean and to keep dust out. So what I do is I take one of these all sticky Post-it notes and actually feed it in the sort of slots, and I kind of press it down and it grabs the...
Angle it a little bit to the top, yeah.
Here we go. I'm trying to show this here. This is very specific, but I love it. I love this. So I'm literally sticking it like here and kind of pressing it down and then letting it pull the dust out of these little crevices. I'll fold it like this and like put it. Let's see if
Josh is giving away all the secrets.
I know these
right
are all
now.
my secrets. So I fold it in half like this. Okay, ready, and then it goes in here like that. Look at that, and it gets all the little stickies.
You're basically, this is like Post-it note flossing.
This is awesome. I am such a nerd, and I love it.
CLA right now.
I said what?
It's a CLA.
That's right. This is a Josh CLA, a Post-it note CLA. It's also really handy for the area right where the screen meets the camera. I can like kind of get it in there and like stick it, and it's like all kinds of gunk coming off. So these all sticky Post-it notes that I get on Amazon are the greatest thing ever. They're good for a lot of things, but I just
like posting notes.
The other thing I'll show while I have the close-up is when you send me your trade-ins, can I get it back to the close-up shot? Please don't leave the straps on, because what can happen is as the straps, if they're jostled around in the box, they can rub against the camera or damage parts of it. I know these little key rings can be a pain. Another inexpensive but useful item that we sell are these split ring pliers. I don't know if you showed these before. We probably have.
We did in the M episode, yeah.
Okay, so if you haven't seen that episode, these are basically just designed to remove the split ring without busting your fingernail. I can't do it from a distance here. They just separate out the split ring. So if you find yourself changing straps a lot, just invest in one of these. These are actually made in the US. These are super cool. Split ring pliers on our website. Yeah, another little gear tip. We also have just a couple of cleaning things. The iLead sensor cleaning tool, which we've talked about, and also the cleaning wipes. These are like pre-moistened wipes. They come with wet ones and then dry ones to get rid of any residue. If you're gonna be buying and selling gear, you want it to look good. You wanna keep it clean. You wanna keep debris out of the corners and all the little guts and parts and stuff like that. Yeah. I also, another Amazon hack, poly bags. If you've ever bought a used item from us, these are 4 mil thick poly bags. 5x8, this is a 5x8 poly bag. We're getting really specific here. This is the perfect size for an M camera. Look at this. Look at this. Ta-da! Look at that. I will sell these for $100 a bag if you wish to buy them. So, there are so many cool tips and tricks to navigating and mastering the world of buying and selling Leica. I hope we covered a lot of them today. I guarantee you there's a ton of questions we didn't get to or we can't really answer in this format. Please leave a comment. Please email us, info@leicastoremiami.com, if you have questions about this kind of stuff.
Drop a comment in the video once it's, obviously we're doing a live stream now, In about 2 hours, YouTube will actually publish the archive version of this in full 4K, and then you'll be able to leave permanent comments like any other video. Right now, we're doing it just in the chat.
Yeah.
But if you leave a comment in that section, we will be answering your comments and questions throughout the next week or two before our next episode.
It takes us some time to get to all the comments, and I'm sure there's probably comments unanswered from last videos, but David works tirelessly to answer them correctly, thoroughly, and be relevant. So, we do see them. You can also email or call us. We're available for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, this is a wide-ranging topic that we're obviously very passionate about, that we both deal in every single day, that we have conversations with about at length. And so we want to share that passion with everyone, because with 100 plus years of Leica history available to us, there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get really caught up, let's call it kind of the, this gear-centric. That's annoying.
Is there a dog hair?
There's like a dog hair floating in the light, catching the light. Sorry, I'm not going insane. But I think a lot of people get really caught up in, hot things of the moment, like, oh my gosh, the M10R or the M10 Monochrom.
Which is fine. Please keep doing that.
And they're very exciting cameras. But one of the things that makes Leica so special, and I think we've covered this in so many of our previous episodes, is that there's such a back catalog. And I don't know the number percentage-wise of everything that's been manufactured that's still in use today, but it's going to be pretty damn high compared to other brands. Such a huge percentage of stuff made over the last 60 years is still in daily use today and still functional today. And, as photographers, as photo enthusiasts, it's really exciting to be able to have this kind of marketplace. And I don't just mean, with Josh and what he's selling, but overall, to have this global community, this global marketplace of great selection of used cameras, used lenses that can still see, decades more use in front of them. And it's just certainly as an enthusiast myself, I love that. Josh will tell you, we have conversations like this.
Pretty much every day.
Oh my gosh, you got an X, Y, or Z and whatever? Yeah. Or he'll tease me like, because I love my 90 Elmerit. He's like, I'm not going to let you see the 90 Elmerit I just took on trade because it's so much nicer than yours and you're going to want it.
You should see the one I have sitting on my desk right now.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He does this.
I like to torture him,
He does this. So, and that is bothering me too. So I think it's great. I think a lot of people can get caught up in the new, but there's certainly a lot of great places for the photographer in the used and the pre-owned market. And that's why we did this episode, because there is a lot of confusion over how to navigate it safely, as a buyer, as a seller, how to find values, how to keep your gear, what to look out for. And I'm sure that we didn't get to everything.
We definitely didn't.
Because this is a huge topic.
We may cover this like in another 15 episodes. We may do a part two.
I don't think we're going to cover it in 15 episodes. But please leave a comment. If we can answer it, we will.
Yes. We're here for you.
And as far as values go, I do want to point out there are some links in the description. Jose, why don't you bring this up if I can find it? Here we go. Just bring me the computer. I do want to point out, and this is Leica Store's Miami site, so you can see there's definitely a fair amount of just used M cameras. Everything is itemized by system, as you can see here. Josh mentioned the new arrival section, which you'll notice there's no pictures because there's a couple pictures. Yeah. These are items that are just ingested. They've gone off to the photographer to be photographed and listed fully. But these are sort of hot off the press new things. So that is a resource that you can use if you're on the hunt for something. Some of these things can show up for hours. They never get a picture and they just get taken off the site because someone is looking for it.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to point out, especially for valuations, because I know we've gotten a couple questions throughout, even though we said at the top of this that we're not going to do valuations. Right here, I'm going to zoom in just so you can see it. There's a thing called Trade in Your Gear under Used. And if you click that, it'll bring you to a trade-in form. And this trade-in form has just basic information, name, contact, and I'm looking to trade, I'm looking to sell, and just basic information like, what is it and what kind of condition is it? And we kind of give a guideline there, and you can attach a picture. So this is the best way to get a formal quote, and get a communication going if you're interested in trading in your gear or selling your gear. So I just want to put that out there. There is a link to it in the video description under a trade in your gear, and that's that.
Yeah.
So
Sweet.
Anyway, why don't we
Wrap it up. We did
wrap
it.
this up?
Whew.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, found it helpful, learned a little something. I know I certainly learned about 4mm plastic bags and various uses for Post-it
I have
notes.
much to teach. I have much to teach. What can I say?
So as always, thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Gabe. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was actually on vacation last week, and Josh is going on vacation this week, but I think we will both be here in 2 weeks.
I sure hope so.
With the normally scheduled time and place.
Yes.
And we're going to keep a little bit of a surprise for the next episode, but keep an eye out. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when we post new content and when we're going live, so you can keep up with everything on Red Dot Forum and the Red Dot Forum Camera Talk live episodes. And in the meantime, you can always check red.forum.com for the latest Leica news, reviews, tech articles, and more, like firmware updates.
Please do that.
So please do that. And until next time, thanks for joining, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.